Chapter 31, see 31 Big Time Skip. 1. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 13 chapters ahead at chapter 44. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Time skip, September 1, 1940. A 13-year-old Tom Riddle arrives at Hogwarts for his 3rd year along with his trusty psychic Rosier. Tom has been attending Hogwarts and Camartage for 2 years, and he is now arriving at Hogwarts for his 3rd year. Upon returning to Camartage after his 1st year ended at Hogwarts, Tom was immediately passed into the next level of training. This training was in the use of the sling ring. Something that Tom would gladly use over the annoyingly disorienting apparition. Apparition has some serious potential for being used during a fight, but the feeling of being sucked through a straw is hard to become accustomed to. I guess this is why they had us make the circles. Tom thought as he entered the sling ring class for the first time. Other novices like Tom were all wearing the sling rings and trying to draw a circular portal with it. Some failed and others succeeded. Now that Tom had some practice in drawing eldritch energy, making the portals themselves wasn't so hard. He was able to make a small portal on the first day, but only his finger would be able to go through such a small portal. The masters watching over the training of the novices and were surprised by Tom's success. They heard and saw that it took him a long time to draw upon the eldritch energy, so they didn't expect Tom to do so well during his first day of practice. After that, Tom would practice with the sling ring for a month. During that month, he would also browse through the library of Camartage to learn all that he could. Due to being the Ancient One's student, Tom was allowed into the more restricted side of the library as well. He took advantage of that and tried his best to memorize every book that he was allowed to read. After a month of constant practice, Tom was able to make a good-sized portal with the sling rings. The instructors that watched over his practice told him he passed and to go to the Ancient One to find out his new training. When he met with the Ancient One, she congratulated him and handed him some red robes. Red robes mean he is no longer a novice and has graduated to become an apprentice. Tom was very proud of himself, as he must be one of the youngest apprentices to wear the red robes. After getting his new robes, the Ancient One gave him a lesson on astral projection. The astral dimension, much like the mirror dimension, coexists alongside the material plane. However, to access it, one must successfully be separated from their physical form, existing in a state of pure energy. This is astral projection. Time relative to the material plane is slowed down to a crawl when one enters the astral dimension, to the point that both Tom and the Ancient One were in the astral plane for at least half an hour and returned in the time it took his body to fall to the floor. The astral dimension, also referred to as the astral plane or the ancestral plane, is a parallel dimension where the soul exists outside of the body. The astral plane is the perfect place to gain information. Tom could go into his astral body and snoop anywhere he wants, as long as there aren't any sorcerers around to sense him. He could technically use this to go and watch the making of Captain America. This could be the way for Tom to find out the formula for the super soldier serum. Follow Erskine around for a bit and learn how to turn himself into a super soldier. Maybe he could incorporate the serum into the first ritual he'll perform on himself. These are thoughts for another day, as Tom has to master astral projection first. The Ancient One also explained that she could peer into the astral dimension without leaving her body. Is that not the biggest cheat to slow time and come up with a plan? If the time moves slower in the astral plane, then why not peer into it when you need a minute during a tough battle? When Tom explained this to the Ancient One, she admitted to doing just that in many battles. Tom's teacher also demonstrated that she could make her astral form perceivable in the material world. Although, doing so would cancel the time dilation. The only time Tom would use this would be to prank Druella into thinking he's a ghost. Other than that, the applications don't seem that big to him. Tom was then taught how to disconnect his astral body from his physical body. That time was spent in a lot of meditation. While he was meditating every day to master astral projection, time passed, and summer came to an end. By the end of summer, Tom has been able to separate his astral body from his physical. This has allowed him access to the astral dimension. However, he could not peek into the astral dimension from his physical body, nor could he bring his astral form into the material world for anyone to see. He would have to practice those at Hogwarts, as the summer has come to an end. Before leaving Camartage, the Ancient One taught Tom how to enter the mirror dimension with his sling ring. She thought that it must be hard for her student to practice at Hogwarts, so she decided to give him access to a perfect training dimension. The mirror dimension allows a sorcerer to train more advanced and dangerous spells without adversely affecting the real world, keep an eye on threats without being noticed, and a prison for those without a sling ring. The final usage is important that a prisoner is left without a sling ring as it is the only means to escape. Tom already had the ROR for a training ground, but the mirror dimension will definitely come in handy. After gaining access to the mirror dimension, Tom left Camartage for the second time. He opened a portal with his sling ring and left until the next Hogwarts break, Chapter 32, see 32 Big Time Skip, 2. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 14 chapters ahead at Chapter 46. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Time skip to September 1, 1940 continued. With the beginning of Tom's second year came the start of World War II. Germany invaded Poland on the exact day that Tom rode the train to Hogwarts. During the sorting, Tom didn't see any new first years of note. Tom and Druella once again stayed low in Slytherin house during this year. Although, he may not be able to lay low during the third year. Since the war started, the inbred faction has gotten more and more radical. The council still hasn't acted against Tom or Druella, but Tom can see the signs. If not next year, the year after they will start to interfere with Tom and Druella in some way. Whether that be more advanced bullying or any other number of nasty possibilities. Throughout the year Tom and Druella continued their morning training and Tom moved on from rituals and dark magic to other pursuits. He already found a ritual he wants to perform on himself, but he needs a few things as he plans to modify it a bit. That will have to wait as Tom doesn't have everything he needs just yet. As for dark magic, the school just doesn't have any more material for him to study. What's left to do is practice spells until he's mastered them. Although, Tom does have a large library that his elves have compiled from his properties. He hasn't had much time to go through it, as he's been a bit busy going from one school to another. This year at Hogwarts, other than his normal studies, Tom has been reading all he could on enchantments. Enchanting was fairly easy for him to pick up, as it uses runes and arrays similar to rituals. Tom was a bit disappointed at the level of the Wizarding World's enchanting though. Odin was able to enchant Thor's hammer with a few words, but the best Tom has seen in the piles of books in the ROR is to change a weapon's sharpness or alter its weight. The Wizarding World's level of enchanting seems to be way lower than that of Asgard's. I'll have to check the library at Camartage to see if they have any Asgardian books on enchanting. Tom thought. By the time Christmas break came, Tom mastered all forms of astral projection. When he returned to Camartage, he was placed under a master named Kido. This master was one of the best when it came to all forms of fighting and battle. Tom was to study under Kido until he was thought competent enough to handle himself physically. Kido started him on hand-to-hand combat and beat Tom into the ground almost every day. Kido thought of fighting as something you have to learn through experience, so he made sure Tom experienced real fighting every day. Kido didn't just start attacking him on the first day though. Tom was taught some basic movements for a few days. Those few days were supposed to last longer, but Tom has a perfect memory and picks up on things quickly. Then started the daily beatings. Kido would make it his job to pick apart every attack Tom could throw at him, painfully. Although Tom dreaded the pain of Kido's training, he pushed himself forward with determination. Tom could see how quickly he was progressing, and if that is due to the harshness of Kido's training, then he would gladly go through it. While training under Kido, he also scoured the library for anything about enchanting. Asgardian or not, Tom wanted to learn a higher level of enchanting. He found a few books on it, but not one of them was an Asgardian one. I may have to actually travel to Asgard to learn. That is if they even teach foreigners. Tom thought as he read quietly in the library. By the time Christmas break came to an end, Tom was still training hand-to-hand under Kido. His small body not up to Kido's standard to move forward just yet. Before leaving Camartage, his teacher, the Ancient One, along with some of the masters he was close to, celebrated Tom's birthday with a surprise party. He turned 13 this year. He had no idea how they learned of his birthday until he saw Mimsy standing next to them. He wanted to be mad at her but couldn't bring himself to hate the little elf that just wants him to have a happy birthday. When Tom returned to Hogwarts, he continued his normal schedule. By the time the year came to an end, the inbred faction has started to become a lot more confrontational. On the train ride home from Tom's second year at Hogwarts, the inbreds tried to bully Tom and Druella out of their compartment again. This time, however, they did it on purpose and followed Tom and Druella to pick a fight. They lost of course, but this just means that the escalation is getting higher and higher. Next year, Tom may have to start laying down the law. He's been waiting for the time when he could stop laying low but thought it best to wait until he was provoked. This way it seems like he's finishing a fight instead of starting one. Yeah, it seems I'll have to start cleaning up Slytherin by next year. I can't have these idiots polluting mine and my ancestors' good name, now can I? Tom thought with a smile as he disembarks the train with an annoyed Druella. She's been especially alarmed at their current situation. Druella doesn't know any of Tom's plans, so she's worried they'll have to go through this for the rest of their time at Hogwarts. She'll be in for a surprise next year. That's for sure. Tom swiftly returned to Camartage after saying goodbye to Druella. He hasn't truly lived at the orphanage in a while. It's been one school to the next and Tom loves every moment of it. Who wouldn't love learning magic? He has the opportunity to learn from two separate schools. It may be hard and demanding, but Tom is living his dreams right now. Creators THOUGHTS Chapter 33, see 33 times skip end, third year as of this chapter, the Patreon is 14 chapters ahead at Chapter 47. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. The summer at Camartage was spent in grueling pain for Tom. He still wasn't up to Keto's standards. Although, he has moved on from hand-to-hand fighting and started practicing with a sword. Keto asked Tom what type of weapon he would prefer. Tom immediately decided on the sword as he is a Pendragon, after all. He has to go with what's in his blood. Also, Tom is hoping that Excalibur is in his Pendragon vault. With proper sword training, he'll be able to wield Excalibur to a higher degree later on. The whole of the summer was spent fighting and training for Tom. He did spend some time here and there studying in the library, but most of his spare time was spent healing from the spars Keto would put him through. By the time summer ended, Keto told Tom that he's ready to move to the next step of his training. Although, that next step wouldn't be revealed to him until Christmas break when he returns. Keto also warned him of slacking on his training while in his other school. He made it very clear that if Tom doesn't keep up with his training, he would make training during Christmas hell for him. On September 1, 1940, Tom opened a portal with his sling ring to an empty alleyway near King's Cross. He once again rode the train to Hogwarts with his trusted friend Druella. They sat alone in their compartment as they usually do. Suddenly, the door opens, and outside is a new first year with round glasses, brown eyes, and black hair. He was already dressed in his robes, so the boy is most likely from a wizarding family. Oh, sorry. I was hoping the back was empty. I can go if you want. The boy asks as he stands outside the door. No, it's fine. I'm Tom Riddle and this is my friend Druella Rosier. Come have a seat. Tom says as he and Druella stand to greet the new boy. Thanks, I'm Charles Potter, but you can call me Charlie if you want. He says in return and takes a seat across from Tom and Druella. This must be Harry's grandfather. Getting close to the Potters wouldn't be a bad idea, as I could get close to Harry Potter and make sure I have nothing to worry about. That is if he's even born after all I've changed. I know that I'm not going to go all Dark Lord and cause the need for a savior, so there should be no prophesy to slay me, but who knows what could happen in the future. I should play it safe and do my best to not start any prophesy about me. I would rather not have the main character, who could have plot armor, to come after me. Although I may be the main character now. Wow, that was trippy to think about. Tom thought and just decided to go with the flow. It's nice to meet you, Charles. Do you know which house you want to be in? Druella asks as she joins the conversation. Well, I don't really mind any of the houses, but my family is predominantly sorted into Gryffindor. Although I won't know until I'm sorted, I guess. By the way, how are we sorted? My parents refuse to tell me. He asks curiously. We can't tell you either. Think of it as a bit of an open secret. Everyone knows, but it's hidden from the children until you see it yourself. Don't worry though. It's nothing crazy and doesn't take more than a minute usually. Tom says, trying to ease the kid's mind. After a long ride to Hogwarts once again, Charles got to know both Tom and Druella. As they were exiting the train, Charles went to the boats while Tom and Druella got in line for a carriage to ride. Hey, Mudblood. Get to the back and give me your place in line. Brighton Lestrange, pompous member of the inbred faction and member of the council, called from further back in the line. He was one of the inbreds from a more predominant family. Behind him were both Crabbe and Goyle with sneers on their faces. They are loving every moment of what's happening right now. Ever since their failed attempt to steal Tom's and Druella's compartment, Crabbe and Goyle have been waiting for any moment to poke the bear. No, thanks. Tom replies easily and didn't even spare them a glance. Druella followed along with Tom and ignored them. This only served to make the blood purists angry, and they left their place in line. As they walked up to Tom and Druella, Tom could hear the student grow quiet. The only time these kids would shut up is if something interesting was about to happen. He turns his head to see Lestrange, Crabbe, and Goyle walking up to him. This is going to be annoying, but I can definitely use this. Tom thought as a plan forms in his mind. Hey, filthy muggle trash, did you hear me? Get your *SS to the back of the line now. Lestrange says as he walks up with two meatheads jeering behind him. And I said no. Now *CK off. Tom replies, staring at the purebloods as if they were a fly buzzing around him. Druella wasn't expecting Tom to reply this way and looked at him with a surprised expression. Usually, they were quiet and steered away from confrontation when it came to their house. Tom wouldn't act like this. What is he planning? She thought, as she knows Tom fairly well as they spent 2 school years together. Upon hearing Tom's reply, the purebloods wanted nothing more than to pull out their wands and start firing away. Although that can't happen as the entire school is currently surrounding them. They may be idiots, but they're still Slytherins and will wait for the right time to strike. I see. Lestrange mutters with a furious red face as he walks back to his place in line. I see. Druella says, mimicking Lestrange. I see. Tom mimicked him as well. Many of the students laughed at Druella and Tom's impression, but as they were laughing, Druella gave Tom a worried look. Tom just returned her a reassuring smile. That was when Druella knew that Tom was planning something. That something also had to do with their house. She couldn't help but worry about whatever was going to happen. Hopefully, Tom knows what he's doing. She thought as she and Tom boarded a carriage. Chapter 34, see 34. Big reveal as of this chapter, the Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at chapter 49. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. When Tom and Druella arrived at the school, they went to the Great Hall for the sorting and dinner. Charles was sorted into Gryffindor as most of his family was. The Potters are a fairly prominent noble family, so getting a Potter in Gryffindor was good news to the house. Dumbledore seemed quite happy about the whole thing. Other than Charles, a few other notable people were sorted into Hogwarts. While Berga Black was sorted into Slytherin. Even as a child she looked like she has a stick up her *SS. Hagrid was sorted into Gryffindor, and boy was he huge. Lastly, Moaning Myrtle herself was sorted into Ravenclaw. Well, she won't be Moaning Myrtle in this reality. I have no plans to kill an innocent girl, especially when I would gain nothing from it. Tom thought as he looks for any more interesting people, but found no other first years of note. After a speech by Headmaster Dippet and eating dinner, everyone went back to their dormitory to get a good night's sleep. However, Tom and Druella would not be getting a good night's sleep. Lestrange called a meeting of the Slytherin Council. The second Slughorn left after welcoming the first years. He called a public meeting, so every member of the house had to attend. Usually, the council would keep their proceedings closed, but Lestrange probably wants to humiliate Tom and Druella for their earlier transgression. Due to the first years being so young and new to the school, they were excused from all meetings until their second year. It was the same for Tom and Druella when they were first years. When everyone had arrived at the common room and the first years left to get some sleep, the council members stood in the center of the room. The council members are Alabaster Knot, a 6th year that tended to leave Tom and Druella be. Brighton Lestrange, a 6th year that started this whole mess that's about to take place. Lawrence Avery, a 7th year that was on the same side as Knot when it came to Tom and Druella. Emerson Mulciber, 5th year, who is probably worse than Lestrange. Briar Rosier, Druella's older brother and a 7th year. His status in the council has fallen since Druella started fraternizing with Tom. Everyone in the room is tired and annoyed. They just had to take a long train ride to a school that could easily open its floor for them to arrive. Now they have to sit through some sort of open council meeting when they want nothing more than to sleep for the classes they have tomorrow morning. What's this all about? Nott asks openly towards Lestrange, as he is the one to call this meeting. The problem is that this dirty mudblood and the blood traitor are still in our proud house. Lestrange exclaims, and a portion of the students cheer him on. We've been through this before. They were sorted into Slytherin and there's nothing we can do about that. Just ignore them as we've been doing, and in a few years they will graduate, as we all will. Nott says as he pretends that Tom and Druella aren't in the room. Druella's brother, Briar, sighs from his place beside Nott. Why can't these people just learn to ignore his sister and her muggle-born friend? He doesn't agree with his sister's choice of friends, but that doesn't mean he will act against her. He loves his sister and would never do anything to hurt her. I agree. We may not like the mudblood, but there's nothing we can do about it. Briar says, completely leaving his sister out of it. Oh, shut up. We all know that you only hold that stance because your mudblood-loving sister is with him. One of the inbred faction jeered from the crowd. Hearing this, Druella's eyes went straight to the ground and a frown marred her lips. She didn't want to make her brother's life hard, but things just suddenly happened that way. What did you say? Briar almost whispered as went to pull his wand out. Now. Let's all just calm down a bit. Tom says as he walks to the center of the room. It seems that even in a council meeting, where we're supposed to be calm and collected, you children can't even do that. The whole room suddenly went silent as every member of Slytherin directed their gaze to Tom Riddle. You weren't permitted to speak. Move back and keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you. Nott says as he directs a glare at Tom. Well, as the heir of Salazar Slytherin himself, I'll be taking the privilege to speak from here on out. Tom says as he takes the Slytherin heir ring from his pocket and places it on his finger. That is utter bullsh*. T. There's no way that Salazar would allow his heir to be a filthy muggle-born. Lestrange exclaims as he stares at the heir run on Tom's finger. The room erupts in commotion as every student started talking at once. Some didn't believe it while others were asking for proof. Meanwhile, Druella was just staring at her friend in complete shock. She knows Tom, and if he says he's heir of Slytherin, then that's probably the truth. As the room filled with more and more voices, Tom stared at the council members for a moment to see their reactions. All of them were surprised, but the inbred members were steaming with anger. Quiet. Nott yelled as he amplified his voice with a bit of magic. The room settled down and everyone was looking to Nott. If you have proof of your claim, please show it. Nott says as he looks towards Tom. I, Thomas Marvolo Riddle, swear on my magic that I am the heir to the most noble and ancient house of Slytherin. Tom pulls his wand and performs a quick lumos to show he still has his magic. The room goes silent as everyone stares at Tom with an open mouth. They couldn't form into words what they felt and thought. They are in the same house as the heir to Slytherin himself. If you were his heir, why didn't you tell us sooner? Briar Rosier said in a disgruntled tone. His sister was shamed heavily for consorting with a mudblood, and yet he was the heir to Slytherin. She should be celebrated for befriending such a person, not shunned and made fun of. If Tom came out with this earlier, Druella and his family would have had a lot more standing in Slytherin house. I wanted to lay low for a while and see how you all acted, and might I say you all disgrace my house. The house of the cunning and ambitious, my *SS. You all are just a bunch of children that are defecating on the good name of Salazar Slytherin, my ancestor. Tom says as he uses his sling ring to make portals to the mirror dimension appear below the Slytherin students. They were all too shocked to do or say anything. When the portals below them appeared, they had no time to think nor act and fell through them easily. As they fell through the portals, Tom closed them so no one could escape. With all of the children trapped in the mirror dimension, only Tom and Druella were left behind. So, before I go and deal with a bunch of children, do you have any questions? Chapter 35, C35 Laying Down the Law, 1. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 16 chapters ahead at chapter 51. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. After witnessing the other Slytherin students being portaled away, Druella didn't have any idea what was going on anymore. Her friend that she thought was a muggle-born is actually the heir to Slytherin. He hid this from everyone, including her, for 2 whole years. The only question running through Druella's mind right now is why. Why? Druella asks. Why what? Tom replies. Why did you hide that you're the heir for so long? You could have walked into Slytherin like a king. She clarifies. Yes, but then I would be surrounded by snakes that would try to become my friend because of that. By waiting, I gained a true friend that would ruin her reputation for me. Also, I wanted to use this opportunity to get close to the other houses. As the bullied and shunned Slytherin, I was able to make a good connection to the rest of the houses. Other than that, I wanted to see what Slytherin is really like. I'm afraid that wouldn't have been possible with everyone trying to kiss my *SS for being the heir to Slytherin. Tom says, and Druella nods along, agreeing with all of his words. All right, but why didn't you tell me sooner? My occlumency has been top-notch since you started teaching me in first year, so don't use that as an excuse. Druella asks as she crosses her arms. Truthfully. I just didn't find the right time to tell you. I will tell you now that I'm hiding many things from you. Although I won't be telling you all of them this instant, you will find out about them sooner or later. That is as long as you don't betray our friendship anytime soon. Tom adds the last part in almost a whisper, but Druella heard every word of it. I would never betray our friendship. She states as she stomps her foot. Good, then you'll learn of all of my secrets in due time. Now, would you like to accompany me to the mirror dimension? I have new followers to convert. Tom asks as he holds out his arm for her to grab. The mirror dimension is where you sent them, right? She asks and Tom nods. How did you do that anyway? Wait, let me guess, that's another secret, isn't it? You catch on quickly as always, Drew. Now we should be going. That is if you're coming along. Tom says as he gestures to his outstretched arm. Fine, let's go. Druella sighs as she grabs Tom's arm. Tom opens a portal with the sling ring and they walk casually into the mirror dimension. As Tom and Druella were talking amongst themselves, the students of Slytherin House fell safely into the mirror dimension. They were all beyond shocked and terrified. The older students tried to use apparition to teleport themselves out, but no matter how they tried, they were stuck in the mirror dimension. When the younger children saw the older students fail, they started to truly panic. What if this is their punishment for ruining the good name of Slytherin? They all thought that this is their prison to serve out their time for besmirching Tom's noble house. Suddenly, as the students were panicking, a portal opened a good distance away. Tom and Druella walk casually into the mirror dimension. As the portal opens, some of the more quick-witted Slytherins try to make a run for the exit. Before they could even get halfway, the portal closed behind Tom and Druella. Hello, how do you all like the mirror dimension? It's a very beautiful place, isn't it? Tom says as he strolls up to the crowd of Slytherin students. Get us out of here this instant. Lestrange yells as he draws his wand. This causes every member of Slytherin House to draw their wands and point them at Tom as well. Druella looked alarmed, but Tom gave her a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Drew. They can't do anything here. After all, I'm the only one that can open a portal out of here. If they were to kill me, they would be stuck here until they starved to death. He said loud enough for the students to hear him. Many of them lowered their wands after hearing this. Although some of them had other ideas floating in their heads. We don't have to kill you. We just have to get you to let us out. I wonder how you would feel about your friend Druella being raped in front of you. Would you let us out then, or would you simply watch as I brutalize her before your very eyes? Lestrange says as he eyes Druella with a perverted smile. As Lestrange said this, Briar, who was standing fairly close to him, drew his wand and aimed it at him. What did you say about my sis? Briar started, but before he could finish with his words. Crucio. Tom drew his wand and called one of the 3 unforgivable spells. As the red lightning fired from Tom's wand and collided with Lestrange, he screamed in pain as he collapsed on the floor and started shaking. What did you say you would do to my friend? Tom says as he doesn't stop the red lightning from exiting his wand. Ah! Lestrange can't stop screaming as he convulses on the mirror dimension floor. The crowd of Slytherins watch on as one of their own is tortured with the best spell for the job. Fear grows in their hearts. Fear of Tom and ever getting on his bad side. Fear of the pain it would bring them and their loved ones. At that moment, it was imprinted in these children to never anger Tom Riddle. I think that's enough. Druella said from her place beside Tom. She didn't disagree with Tom using the Cruciatus curse on that idiot for threatening her purity, but she didn't want him to die, and if the torture continued he might have. She was also surprised that Tom knew one of the unforgivable curses. No, this is Tom I'm thinking of. He probably already knows all three. She thought and was correct in her assumption. Yes, you're right. Tom agrees and stops torturing the boy. As the pain stopped, Lestrange lay heaving for air on the floor. He was on the border of consciousness and couldn't understand what happened. One moment he was talking, and the next he was on the ground in unimaginable pain. Now, the Slytherin Council is now dissolved. You were given power that never belonged to you in the first place, so I'll be taking that power back as of right now. Tom says, and no one dared to utter a single complaint. The council members didn't dare say a word, as they didn't want to end up like Lestrange. Also, some of them had no quarrel with Tom taking over the house. He is the heir to Slytherin, after all. As for your way out of this dimension, that will have to come at a price. Tom says as an evil smile graces his lips. Chills went down the Slytherin students' spines as they sensed the price wouldn't be small. Chapter 36, see 36 Laying Down the Law, 2. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 14 chapters ahead at chapter 51. Didn't do any chapters last night because I had to wake up early today. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight though. As the Slytherin students heard Tom say there's a price for leaving the mirror dimension, all of them knew they weren't going to like paying it. What's the price? Druella's brother is the first to ask. The price is simple. I want your utmost loyalty to me as your lord. Tom says casually as if he was asking for nothing at all. What? That is outrageous. The commotion begins and everyone starts voicing their opinion. Some seemed perfectly fine with serving Tom as he is the heir to Slytherin. Others seemed outraged about serving a Muggle-born, but then someone asked an important question. Is he a Muggle-born, or what? The second those words left a Slytherin student's mouth, everyone shut up and looked at Tom in curiosity. Even Lestrange, who was still panting on the floor from his earlier torture, looked at Tom with a questioning eye. I'm a half-blood. My mother was from a pure-blood wizarding family, while my father is a Muggle. Tom says easily. What if he's lying? Someone called out from the crowd. I have no reason to lie to my future servants. A half-blood isn't much better than a Muggle-born in your eyes, isn't it? If I wanted to lie, I would have said that I was pure-blood all along. Tom says and the group of children nods their heads in agreement. Now, I'll give the more stubborn bunch of you a way out of my service. Those of you that don't wish to serve me may leave this dimension by challenging me to a duel. If I win, you will swear loyalty to me as your lord, but if you win, I will allow you passage back to Hogwarts alive and healthy. After Tom's declaration, the whole crowd became silent with contemplation. The students, who recently saw Tom Crucio, a fellow Slytherin, right before their eyes, had no interest in being Tom's next target. They looked at Tom with wariness and knew they couldn't stand up against someone that knew at least one of the unforgivables. Some of their parents have talked of teaching them those forbidden spells, but only after graduating Hogwarts. I see that some of you may be afraid that I'll use the unforgivables in our duel. Let me make you all feel more at ease. I, Thomas Marvolo Riddle, swear on my magic that I won't use any of the 3 unforgivables during any duel that happens within the next 3 hours. Unless of course those duels are interrupted by those that would plot against me. Tom swears and many of the elder students smile at this development. Before they were afraid that Tom would torture them or worse throw a killing curse at them, but now they calmed down and looked a bit more sure of themselves. The majority of younger students from 4th year and down decided to take a wait-and-see approach. They didn't want to fight Tom in the first place, as he's known as the brightest student to enter Hogwarts in many years. If Tom would be tired out during his duels, they could easily challenge him and beat a weakened opponent. If the elder students with more experience could exhaust him, then they may have a chance to get out of here without swearing their loyalty to some half-blood. Then there was the small portion of the Slytherin students that had no problems with swearing loyalty to the heir of Slytherin. Half-blood or not, Tom is the heir to their precious founder and they would die for Salazar Slytherin. Their parents have ingrained into these children's minds that Salazar Slytherin was the greatest of wizards. They see Tom as the second coming of Salazar and would gladly swear themselves to him as his servants. Among this small majority stood Orion Black, who truthfully was looking for an excuse to befriend Druella and Tom openly. He was taught that Slytherin was the personification of pureblood ethics and would gladly serve his heir. Although, Abraxas Malfoy was on the side of those that would wait and see. He didn't want to serve a half-blood, but he would if it's his only way out. I think I've given you all enough time to make up your minds. Tom says as he checks his imaginary watch. Those of you that wish to duel for your freedom please stand on the left, and the rest of you may stand on the right. Tom says as he motions to each side. 20 people stood on the left while the rest all went to the right. Surprisingly, Lestrange was not among those on the left. He stood from his down position and walked to the right. He has either learned his lesson, or he's biding his time along with the rest. The group that challenged Tom is mainly 7th-year students along with some of the council members. Druella's brother was not among them though. He didn't walk to either side, as he strolled up to Tom and dropped onto one knee. I, Briar Murray Rosier, swear my loyalty to my lord, Thomas Marvolo Riddle. As his servant I will act as his sword, wand, and shield when need, provide counsel when asked, and keep his secrets even in death. I swear this oath on my life, should I knowingly break it. Druella's brother swears in front of everyone. Druella wears a truly shocked face and doesn't know what to say. She knows that Briar only did this for her. If she weren't so close to Tom already, he would never take an oath like this. I accept your oath, Heir Rosier. Tom says with a small smile on his face. You may stand beside your sister while I deal with the rest. Yes, my lord. He says, rising from his position to stand near his sister. The rest of the Slytherins were surprised that the heir to the noble and ancient house of Rosier would swear his loyalty so easily. Some thought of it as jumping on the bandwagon early. With an earlier entrance into Tom's faction, he will most likely get a higher position. Suddenly, 1/10 of the Slytherin students walked straight up to Tom and swore their loyalty as well. Briar's oath caused those that followed him along with those that saw Tom as a viable lord to swear their loyalty one by one. The rest of the Slytherins watched on with shock as a good portion of their classmates and fellow heirs swore their lives away. Some thought them dumb to do so, but others weren't so sure. If Tom can somehow beat all of the students that challenge him, a new order will rise in Slytherin House, and these people that jumped in early will have a better position than the rest of them. That is if Tom can beat every challenger, of course. As the last Slytherin swore herself to Tom, he brought his attention towards the group that wishes to duel him. All right, decide amongst yourselves who will duel me first. I'd like to get this over with swiftly, so I can get some sleep tonight. Chapter 37, see 37 Laying Down the Law, 3. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 14 chapters ahead at chapter 51. Didn't do any chapters last night because I had to wake up early today. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight though. Soon the challenger sent the first duelist forward. Of course, it's a 7th year that is said to be a fairly good duelist. Alright, everyone back up about 20 feet and don't stand behind either of us. We wouldn't want a stray spell hitting any of you, would we? As Tom says this, everyone scrambled to get in a safe position. Good, now let's draw some boundaries. Tom points his wand to the ground about 15 feet away and calls. Incendio. Fire shoots out of his wand and sticks to the floor as he creates a circle of fire enclosing the 2 duelists. Stepping foot outside the circle will constitute as an immediate loss. Getting your wand knocked out of your hand, being knocked unconscious, or simply giving up will also constitute a loss. The match will start when this galleon hits the ground. Tom says as he fishes a shiny gold piece from his pocket. Are you ready? Tom simply received a nod as a reply and threw the coin into the air. As the coin flew through the air and hit the ground, the 7th year jumped into action. Incarcerus, Conf Ringo, he calls 2 different spells one after the other, as lightning flies from his wand. Tom dodges the first binding spell and calls up a shield for the incoming blasting curse. Protego, Conf Ringo, Serpensortia. Tom blocks the spell and immediately replies with his own. A blasting curse flies from Tom's wand and nearly misses the 7th year as he steps out of the way. Tom calls his last spell and a snake comes sailing out of his wand and lands on the 7th year's neck. The snake constricts around his neck and bares its fangs at the student. If he even thinks of moving, bite him and squeeze until he drops. Tom hisses at the snake and it eagerly complies. I've told that snake around your neck to bite you and squeeze if you even think of moving. As Tom says this, the 7th year stops and freezes in place. His wand clutched in his hand tightly as he tries to think of how to get out of this situation. Before you get any funny ideas, let me tell you what type of snake you have around your neck at this very moment. That is a king cobra, and they are the longest venomous snake in the world. Its bite delivers a tremendous amount of paralysis-inducing neurotoxins. The snake's venom is so strong and so voluminous that it can kill an elephant in just a few hours. As Tom informs the boy, he starts shaking with fright. All right. I concede. Please, get this thing off of me. He stutters as the snake eyes him as if he were its dinner. That's good. We wouldn't want you to die during the duel, after all. Tom says with a small smile as he turns his attention to the snake. Thanks for the help. You may leave now, Evanesca. Tom calls the snake vanishing spell and the king cobra disappears. The second the snake left the boy's neck, he collapsed on the ground in utter defeat. You may swear your oath now. Tom says to the boy that just collapsed on the floor. After gathering himself, the seventh year said the same oath as everyone else and took his place among Tom's new group. Next. Tom calls and another challenger enters the ring of fire. This continued until Tom has beaten every single one of the 20 that challenged him in the first place. On the outside, Tom was keeping it together and playing everything off like it was nothing, but on the inside, Tom is dreadfully tired. He's used almost all of his magic within these 20 back-to-back duels and would love to just go to sleep right now. That can't happen though, as he has to put up a strong front for these purebloods. If they see him weakened, they will pounce like waiting predators. Does anyone else wish to challenge me? Tom calls to the remaining students. The students remain quiet, as they just witnessed something amazing. Tom, as a third-year student, just dismantled every seventh-year student that challenged him. Not only were they seventh years, but they were also all well known for being good in duels. Tom just made them look like children and did so one after the other. In the hearts and minds of these people, Tom is unbeatable and they would gladly serve someone this skilled. Not to mention, he's the heir to the most respected pureblood wizard to ever live. Some still didn't want to serve Tom, but what can they do about it? They can't just challenge him, as they aren't nearly as strong as the students that just lost. How could they ever stand a chance? I will take your silence as your answer. Seeing as none of you wish to challenge me, form a line and start swearing your oaths. Tom orders and they move almost without meaning to. A line is formed and one by one the students swear their loyalty to Tom as their lord. From second year to seventh year, every single one of them swore the oath. This includes every member of the inbred faction. Although, they didn't hate Tom anymore. They all looked at him as if he were a god. A god that just showed how powerful he was for all to see. Even Lestrange, who was just tortured by Tom only moments ago, is looking at him in awe and wonder. Although they are obviously crazy, Tom won't try to correct their behavior. It's best to have the crazies on a tight leash. As the last of the students swore their oaths, Druella moves before Tom and goes to swear herself as well. Stop, Drew. What are you doing? Tom says as he stops Druella from kneeling. I'm swearing myself to the new Lord of Slytherin, of course. She said as if it was the simplest thing in the world. No, you aren't. You're my friend, therefore you don't have to do anything. Tom says with a smile. No, I have to. I know there are some things you're hiding from me. You don't trust me fully, and that's fine. I don't trust anyone completely, but if I give this oath, I'll be bound by it to stay loyal to you. You can trust me completely after that, right? Tom frowned at this. She is correct that he is hiding things from her. From the ROR to Camartage, he's been hiding a few things here and there. When he thought about it, he concluded that yes, he doesn't fully trust her. It was a dreadfully sad realization, as he is truly grateful to her for sticking by him, but he just found it hard to trust her fully. You're right. Tom admits, and she gets on one knee as everyone else did. I, Druella Mary Rosier, swear loyalty to my lord, Thomas Marvolo Riddle. As his servant and friend, I will act as his sword, wand, and shield when need, provide counsel whenever I wish, and keep his secrets even in death. I swear this oath on my life, should I knowingly break it. She says with a smile on her face. She never thought that any of this would happen. She thought that they would trudge their way through Hogwarts while dealing with bullies and other annoyances. Never would she have imagined that Tom would lead the house, nor did she believe that he would bring it under his control in a single night. She truly made the right choice the day she chose to forsake her reputation for friendship. I accept your oath, Drew. Thank you. Chapter 38, C38 Laying Down the Rules. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at chapter 53. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Now that Tom is in charge, he needs to start laying down the law. If he wants to gain full control of the castle, he can't just leave things the way they are now. The Slytherin students would just go back to their old ways and act like idiots again. Tom has to lay some rules so that the house can start moving on the path towards unity. Alright, now that you've all sworn your oaths, I have some rules to tell you. After I've informed you of said rules, you may return to your rooms and get some sleep. Tom states as every Slytherin student listens closely. Firstly, to the rest of the school and everyone not in this dimension right now, including the Slytherin first years, I am not the leader of Slytherin House, nor am I even the heir to Slytherin. Tom says as he takes off his heir ring and stores it away. I don't wish to reveal too much to anyone just yet. This means that you tell no one anything about me being your lord or reveal anything that has taken place here today. That includes your parents, as I have no interest in hearing from them just yet. The council that was previously in power will remain as a sort of figurehead, but I will be the one steering the ship, so to say. Tom informs them and the council members seem alright with this. A figurehead position is still a position, so they at least have some power still. Even if it's a sliver of what it once was. If I am ever indisposed, Druella is in charge. Listen to her as if the orders came from my mouth. Is that understood? Tom asked and received nods all around. Some were unhappy about being placed below a girl, but they wouldn't argue with Tom after all they've seen tonight. A proud smile bloomed on Druella's face as she stands up straighter. This was a good sign for her. Before her oath, there was no way that Tom would put her in charge of his followers. This just proved that it was the right choice to swear the oath to him. Now, onto the new direction that our house will be taking from now on. Tom says, and many of the students gulp in anticipation. No longer will Slytherin be the house of racist bullies. We are supposed to be the house of the ambitious and cunning. I have no interest in your excuses, nor do I care for your complaints. We have long alienated ourselves from the rest of the school, and that stops now. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? Tom asks, and one of the more brave students raises their hand. Yes. What about the first years? How do we explain the sudden behavior change? One of the elder students asked. They have barely been in this school a single day. Just pretend that the council gave you all a tongue lashing during this meeting and change your behavior. Also, try to guide the newer students to make friends with the other houses. We are the ambitious and cunning, and as such we should be making connections with every person we can. Who knows when we'll need help from someone from another house. Not to mention the future possibility of someone from another house holding a high position in the government. Many of the students are listening carefully and soaking up the information. Most of them seem to agree with Tom's points as they are logical, after all. A few of them still look hesitant, but that will hopefully change as time passes. Now, here's the one that none of you will like, but it has to be done. Starting from tomorrow, each one of you will find those that you have mistreated and apologize sincerely. Offer nothing to them and simply say you're sorry and that you will change your ways from now on. This includes those from Gryffindor. Tom says, and the whole dimension gets loud with complaints from the students. Silence. Tom yells, and all of his followers close their mouths quickly. You will do as I say, and you will do it with a smile on your face. I'm not telling you to befriend them immediately, but the fighting between our two houses has to stop. It will stop. As I've said before, we are the house of the cunning and ambitious, not the house of bullies and racists. All of you will apologize to every single person you've ever wronged in this school by the end of tomorrow. I don't care if they've already graduated or not. Send them AF * King Owl if you have to, but this will get done. Am I clear? Tom states, and everyone voices their agreement swiftly as not to anger Tom any further. Good, along with these changes will come training that all of you must go through. The day after tomorrow, the council will announce a new club called the Gym Club. This club will only allow Slytherin second-year students and up to join. The club will use the room that Druella and I have been using every morning for our training. You will all join the club and every morning you will follow a training regimen set by me. Not only is it set by me, but it's the training that I do every day with Druella. Tom says, and every one of them looks interesting in going through whatever training Tom went through to get as strong as he is. Druella just looks at these people with sympathy. They didn't understand that when Tom says training, he means physical training as well. When they're told to run as she did, they'll understand the pain that comes with Tom's training. What about next year when this year's first years can join the club? They haven't sworn an oath as we did. Briar, Druella's brother, asks. Every year after the welcome feast, we will hold an open council meeting. The new second years that attend will be brought here and swear their loyalty as all of you have. This will repeat every year going forward from now on. Tom says, and the more mentally gifted students get a chill down their spine. Tom is essentially declaring that he would be recruiting every Slytherin to enter Hogwarts from now on. That is a lot of people, and a good portion of them are heirs that will become lords down the line. He's pretty much saying that every child to enter Slytherin will serve him. Tom then went on to list actual rules for every Slytherin to follow. These rules will be announced tomorrow by the council to all students, including the first years. They are easy rules to follow, like no bullying, no stealing, etc. They will be the basis of how the Slytherins will be allowed to act from here on out. That's it. You may leave and get some sleep. Tom announces as he conjures a portal out of the mirror dimension. Chapter 39, see 39 Seuss. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at chapter 55. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. As the students left the mirror dimension, Druella stayed behind along with Tom. She had some worries and needed to voice them. She also had some questions for Tom to hopefully answer. So, how does it feel to be the second in charge of Slytherin House? Tom asks as he closes the portal after the last student leaves the mirror dimension. It feels good, but I have some worries. A good portion of your new followers don't have any occlumency barriers. If someone were to read their minds, they will know what happened here and the changes to our house. She informs Tom with a grave expression. You don't think I already know this? Tom asks with a small smile on his face. There's nothing I can do about it, but start training them and hope for the best. If someone reads their minds, they can't use that information as it was illegally obtained. All we have to do is not cause any major waves and start their training as soon as possible. I would have trained them today, but the duels lasted longer than I expected. Tomorrow will be spent healing the broken connections between our house and the others, and the next will be the beginning of their training. Hopefully, they can pick up on occlumency quickly. I guess you're right, but people will know that something has changed. The second that every student in Slytherin starts apologizing tomorrow, anyone that has a brain will know that something happened within our house. She voices more of her worries. Let people think whatever they want. Unless they interfere with my plans, I have no interest in them. These things have to be done in order to unite the houses. Tom says, and Druella instantly remembers the Hat's song from their first year. You're the guest, aren't you? She blurts out. Huh? What are you talking about? Tom asks. The Hat's song before our sorting talked about the need to unite the broken house. Then it said that we had a guest that year that could bring them together or something. You are who he was talking about, right? She explains her thoughts. Tom took a minute to decide whether to say anything and decided to reveal a bit to his trusted friend this time. She did swear the oath after all. He then went on to explain how he owns the school, but Lady Hogwarts won't give him full control unless he unites the broken houses. You're telling me that you own this entire castle? She asked with awe in her voice. Yes, and the land around it as well. Tom says casually. I hate you. Why do you get this beautiful castle, while my family only owns a manor and a few vacation homes? She says as she starts pouting. You do understand that you're mad at being less rich than me, right? You're still rich, you know. Tom says with a sigh as his friend's spoiled behavior is starting to surface. Yeah, but it's not the same. She says as she starts pouting even harder. Would it make you feel better if I said that I own a few other castles as well? Tom says with a teasing smile. Shoot yourself with the killing curse right now. She says as she glares at Tom with mock hate. The next morning, Tom and Druella perform their training as usual. After the normal training routine, they get cleaned up and head to the Great Hall for some breakfast. Along the way, many of the students were gossiping about receiving apologies from Slytherin House. They were talking about how all over the school students are being approached by Slytherins, not in the usual bad way either. They didn't come to bully them and call them names, but to apologize for all the wrong they have caused them. This was happening all over the school and every Slytherin student was taking part. They must have decided to rip the band-aid off quickly. This way it's done and they can move on with the rest of the day. Druella whispers to Tom and he just nods in reply. When they arrive at the Great Hall, the staff of the school looks pleased and suspicious at the same time. On one hand, the most problematic house in the school is apologizing and stating that it would change its ways. On the other hand, it's all happening far too quickly to not cause suspicion. Especially from Dumbledore, who is far too suspicious of Tom to not watch the Slytherin house closely. When Tom and Druella took a seat at the Slytherin table, Dumbledore knew something was up. The students who sat at the table would always shun Tom and Druella, but today they seemed to be fairly inclusive with them. None of the students shuffled away from them, nor did they start badmouthing them as usual. Is this because they wish to change their ways, or has Tom done something to make them act this way? Dumbledore thought but immediately discarded his assumption. There's no way that boy could pull off something like this. No matter how skilled he is, he can't fix the entirety of Slytherin House so quickly. It must be something else. Throughout the rest of the day, apologies were given left and right from Slytherin students. Many of the students being apologized to simply accepted it and moved on with their day. Others were suspicious and some were flat out denying the apologies. Those that would deny the apologies more often than not came from Gryffindor. They don't trust snakes and see these apologies as either an act or some sort of evil plan. Hopefully, over time these thoughts will change and the houses will be united. Something else happened that day as well, as a long list of rules was posted in the Slytherin common room. They were said to be sanctioned by the council and every Slytherin student had to follow them. When the first years read them, they were truly surprised. First, the older students' behavior changes out of nowhere and now they have rules for everyone to follow. They were truly unhappy with this outcome, especially Walburga Black, who voiced her opinion quite loudly. Of course, Orion, her cousin, stepped in and brought her aside to get her on board. He can't have a member of his house angering his lord, after all. The day after the apologies, the council announced the gym club and everyone attended Tom and Druella's training. Tom spent the majority of the training teaching them occlumency, as that is the most important at the moment. After the training and classes, Tom decided that it's time to visit the Chamber of Secrets. He believes that he's strong enough to at least run away from the basilisk if he has to. If worse comes to worst, he could just portal away, and if the snake tries to follow him, Tom can just close the portal on it and kill it. Oh, that would be a good move. Using portals to decapitate people. Tom thought as he went to gather supplies for his adventure to the second-floor girls' bathroom, Chapter 40, C40 Chamber, 1. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at Chapter 55. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. In preparation for going to the Chamber of Secrets, Tom has come up with a plan. The basilisks are said to be killed by the cry of a rooster, so Tom has made a magical recorder out of runes and arrays. The recorder itself wasn't so hard to make, as he just needed it to copy a sound and then play it a single time. He hasn't quite figured out how to save it, so it will only play once after being activated. Just to be totally safe, Tom made 2 separate recorders. He recorded the sound of some roosters on both devices, as the groundskeeper keeps a few of them. The backup plan for this recorder somehow failing is quite simple. Tom will fall back on the portal away plan if needed, and if the basilisk were to try to follow him, then Tom would be delighted to test out his new move. With his fairly simple plan put together, at midnight Tom sneaks out of the dormitory and goes to the second-floor girls' bathroom. Of course, he made sure to be as quiet as possible and keep to the shadows. Although the caretaker of the castle isn't as paranoid as Filch was in canon, so he shouldn't be searching the halls right now. Once inside the bathroom, Tom made sure no one was around. He then closes the door and walked to the sinks. Once he stood by the sink, Tom made sure to listen for any students or teachers wandering the halls just to be safe. As he doesn't hear any footsteps or any other signs of life, he looks to the sink and says the magic word. Open! Tom hisses and the sinks open to reveal a dark entrance with a ramp to go down. Stairs, he calls, and nothing happens. Asterisk shrug asterisk, it was worth a shot. Tom jumps down the entrance and slides down to the dark abyss below. As he gets to the bottom, Tom slides off and lands on his feet in a dark tunnel. Following the tunnel, Tom doesn't find the skin from the basilisk shedding that Harry found in the movie. Walking along the tunnels, Tom finds another entrance and opens it like the sinks. "Open!" Tom hisses, and the doors open. Inside is a walkway flanked on both sides with waterways that ran through the room and who knows where else. Lining the left and right walls are big snake statues that hover over the waterways. At the end of the walkway is a wall carving of the head of Salazar Slytherin. A/N. Truthfully, I can't remember what the head was, but I'm pretty sure it was Slytherin's head. This is the Chamber of Secrets. Tom takes a minute to take all of this in. He remembers watching Harry's battle against Diary Tom and the basilisk. He then decided to use this place as a meeting spot for him and his high-level followers. He'll have to make sure that no valuables are lying around before inviting anyone in, of course. Also, whoever would be invited has to be proficient in occlumency, as to protect the chamber's whereabouts. This all depends on my ability to either control the basilisk or kill it. Tom thought as he gets ready to open the statue's mouth. Tom opens a portal to the mirror dimension behind him and takes out one of the recording devices with the rooster cry recorded. He then takes a few breaths and readies himself to invite out one of the most dangerous magical creatures in the world. Okay, breath in, breath out. You can do this. Just don't look into its eyes and talk as soon as possible to gain its trust. Tom thought as he centers himself and looks away from the mouth. Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four, Tom hisses as the mouth falls open. Making sure not to look into the abyss of the open mouth, Tom waits to hear something exiting the mouth. The anticipation and the fact that he can't look in that direction is killing him. He waits and waits, but as time passes he hears nothing. As soon as the mouth stopped opening and the sound of stone scraping against stone ended, the chamber was bathed in silence as nothing came out of the mouth. Tom waited and waited until he couldn't take it anymore and looked towards the mouth. Nothing was there and nothing seemed to be coming out. Tom cursed his new situation that he's found himself in. Am I supposed to go in or should I try luring the snake out? Tom thought. As Tom was thinking of his current situation and debating on his next step, the water on the left side of the walkway starts rippling. As Tom is staining into the mouth of the statue, the head of the basilisk pokes out of the water to his left. Suddenly, Tom heard the sound of water moving and dripping. He could feel the hairs on his body stand straight up. Turning to his left, while making sure to look only near the floor, he sees the same basilisk from the movie slithering its way out of the water. It looked as ugly and mean as he remembers from the scene. Panic filled Tom's mind as he fights his response to say F***ck this and run away. After swiftly getting himself under control, he opens his mouth and hopes for good luck. Hello, I'm the heir to Slytherin. It's nice to meet you, Tom says with a bit of awkwardness as he's ready to press play on the recorder and pounce to the portal at any moment. At first, the snake doesn't answer and simply turns its head sideways for a second. Seeing the basilisk didn't try to eat him yet, Tom started getting hopeful that the basilisk would listen to him. Food, the basilisk hisses and surveys the room for any tasty meals. Food, the snake yells with a crazed look in its eyes as it sees Tom. Well, that answers my question, I guess. Tom says immediately presses the play button on his magic recorder. Amplified sounds of many roosters crying out fill the room. The basilisk cries out and hisses in pain as the audio plays through the room. It writhes and shakes as it falls back into the water and disappears underneath. When Tom sees the basilisk escape under the water, he curses and pulls out the other recorder device. The first one has already ended, so it's best to have the other at the ready. Due to the basilisk vanishing under the water, Tom can't tell whether it died or not. He sticks close to the portal with his back to it and watches the waters around him closely. Soon the water started moving as if something was splashing around beneath it. This spreads to every bit of water in the room, and Tom couldn't tell which side the snake was swimming in anymore. The waters got so turbulent that the water started rising and soaking the walkway Tom is standing on. The water invades his dragon hide boots and soaks his socks completely in water. F***ck, on top of all of this, now I have to deal with wet socks. Tom yells in annoyance, as he hears squishing noises from his shoes every time he takes a step. Chapter 41, C41 Chamber, 2. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 16 chapters ahead at chapter 57. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Ignoring the feeling of his wet socks, Tom stays alert with his back to the portal and surveys the surrounding waters. Soon the water stops thrashing and slowly becomes calm once again. Tom eyes the water warily as the calm waters are almost scarier than the earlier waves. As he's watching the water closely, the mouth of the statue hasn't closed. The sound of something scraping on stone could be heard, as orange glowing eyes shine through the open mouth. Hearing the scraping in the statue's direction, Tom fought the urge to look in that direction. He knew the snake was coming from the mouth, so he waited for the perfect chance to press play on his remaining recorder. As the basilisk slithered out of the mouth, Tom could hear it transfer from the mouth to the floor. Immediately, he pressed the play button again. Nothing happens. No rooster cry, cluck, or anything. Tom presses the button again and still, nothing happens. F***ck, I must have messed up a rune or something on this one somewhere. Tom cursed inwardly as he taps the button a few more times. As Tom is freaking out over his device not functioning properly, the basilisk has fully exited the statue. At first, it was hesitant because of the loud soul-piercing noises from earlier, but the chamber is perfectly quiet now. Oh, how the crazed basilisk hated that sound, and it knew where it came from. It came from that little food that walked into her home uninvited. How dare a piece of food cause such a great snake such as her such unimaginable pain? With revenge on her mind from the earlier sound attack, the basilisk locked onto Tom, coiled itself, and prepared to pounce. F***ck this. Tom exclaimed as he dashed to the portal. The second Tom made a run for the portal, the snake shot forward like a rocket aimed straight at the tasty food before her. Tom crosses the threshold of the portal into the mirror dimension, but he didn't stop there. No, Tom kept running forward as fast as he could and peeked over his shoulder. The basilisk didn't see anything wrong with the portal and followed Tom in easily. When Tom took a peek over his shoulder, he was met with a close-up look of the basilisk's open mouth ready to take a bite out of him. Before the snake could close its mouth, Tom swiftly closed the portal. As the portal closed, it cut the basilisk clean in half. The front half that entered the mirror dimension started convulsing and shrieking in pain. It no longer chased Tom, nor did it even acknowledge his existence. The back part that was cut is leaking blood at an incredible rate. With every second that goes by, the basilisk starts slowing down and losing the strength to hiss in pain. After about 20 minutes, the basilisk is completely unmoving. Its eyes become dim and it's no longer breathing. Even though Tom knows it's probably dead, he still doesn't dare to step near it, nor does he look into its eyes. He truly doesn't know whether its eyes could still kill with a glance or not. Basilisks are so rare that not a lot has been written about them. Tom has only read a few things here and there. After a moment of making sure that the basilisk is actually dead, Tom opens a portal back to the chamber and sees the decapitated bottom half of the basilisk just sitting there, unmoving. Seeing that he's beat the basilisk, Tom takes a moment to inwardly celebrate. He took on a 1,000-year-old basilisk and won. Though he had an easier time thanks to his portals, Tom has still slain a basilisk nonetheless. Pride swells in his chest as he looks over the two halves on either side of the portal. A/N, sorry to those that wanted the basilisk to live. It's too bad that the snake had already gone mad before I got here. I would have gone crazy as well if I was locked down here for who knows how long. The canon basilisk must have either been saner or canon Tom did some sort of spell to gain its allegiance. Whatever, the parts can be recycled in the upcoming ritual I've been working on. I wonder if I could incorporate the eyes somehow. Tom starts pondering over ways to enhance his ritual with basilisk parts. As thoughts of cool eye powers race around in Tom's mind, he looks at the two giant halves of the snake. How the hell am I supposed to dismantle this thing and store everything away? It would take me at least a week, and that's with me working non-stop. Tom thought and then decided to put all of the work on his trusty house elves. Mimsy. Pop. Yes, Master Tommy. Mimsy appears in the mirror dimension to answer Tom's call. The second the word Tommy leaves her lips, Mimsy looks horrified. She along with a few of Tom's other elves heard a Hogwarts elf call Tom, Tommy. They also wanted to join in so they called him that as well, but her master asked them nicely to never call him that. When she was called by her master just now, the excitement got to her and the name just came out without her thinking. When Tom heard her call him Tommy, his eyebrow twitched and he frowned slightly. I hate that Hogwarts elf. The second I have control over this castle, he's getting the clothes. Tom thought as he cursed the moment he was called Tommy. Sorry, master. Mimsy stuttered as her ears drooped in sadness. It's all right. I know you didn't mean to. Tom says as he pats her bald head. She beams a blinding smile up at Tom as he gives her one final pat. Can you assign some of the other elves to dismantle and package all the parts of this basilisk? Both sides, please. Tom says as he points to the portal to the Chamber of Secrets. Also, make sure no one gets any of the poison on them and don't look into its eyes or you'll die. The second Tom mentioned a basilisk, Mimsy looks over and sees the severed front half just laying there. She suddenly shrieks in fright and hides behind her master's leg, peeking out only every now and then to see the gruesome creature. It's already dead. You have nothing to worry about as long as you follow my directions. Tom says as he gestures to the unmoving snake. Don't be gettin' venom on us and no staring at its eyes. Mimsy stutters as she comes out from behind Tom's leg. Exactly, and store it all away in one of my properties. Tom says, and Mimsy is still watching the basilisk with caution. After showing Mimsy that the snake is dead, she had no problem with getting it dismantled. She called a few elves to help her out and got straight to work. While they were working, Tom opened a portal to his dorm room and went straight to sleep. He has to teach almost every Slytherin student occlumency tomorrow morning. After all, Chapter 42, see 42 training followers and electives as of this chapter. The Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at Chapter 58. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Christmas break came quickly as always, and Tom has been busy in the months since Hogwarts began again. It only took Mimsy and the other elves 2 days to disassemble, package, and store away the basilisk Tom defeated. Everything was moved to one of Tom's many manors. This particular manor has a special room that is used to store ingredients over long periods of time. The elves pretty much packed that room to the brim with snake parts and liquids. Everything was saved down to the bones, blood, and spit. Tom searched the whole Chamber of Secrets and didn't find anything of importance. A few books on parcel magic were stashed away, but he has already seen them in the ROR. Though the books were taken and stored away in Tom's trunk for safekeeping anyway. There was also some potion supplies, but everything was already rotted into nothing. Tom was hoping to find some eggs from the basilisk, but none were found in the chamber. If I want a basilisk, then I'll have to make one myself. Tom thought as he finished searching the chamber. After taking control of Slytherin House, Tom's been training his new followers every day. Many of them were annoyed at waking up so early, not to mention the laborious physical training, but none would speak up against it. Especially since their new lord was doing it alongside them, and performing the exercises without much effort. After the physical training came the occlumency lesson that happened every single day. Tom needed these Slytherins' minds protected as swiftly as possible. He doesn't know if anyone has already peeked into their minds or not. If they have, then Tom is sure that whoever they are will reveal themselves sooner or later. If no one has read their minds, then Tom's luck must be pretty good. Other than training in the mornings, Tom also ordered them to expend all of their magic every night before bed. They were skeptical at first, but after the first month, they started to see the benefits. Druella has been the greatest help in these past months. When Tom was busy or needed counsel on anything, she would be there to help out. She was truly excited about the new developments in Slytherin House. In a single day she went from the friend of the mudblood to the second in command of the whole of Slytherin, and boy does she love being in charge. She doesn't misuse her power, as that would be detrimental to her friend and lord, but she definitely gets a kick out of ordering everyone around. These people used to talk sh*t behind her back and some even straight to her face. The feeling of putting all of them in their place was truly euphoric for her. As this is the 3rd year, Tom was able to pick his electives. He and Druella picked the same electives as to stick together. It helped that they both were interested in the same courses. Arithmancy and ancient runes. At first, Tom wanted to see if he could take all of the courses and get a time turner out of it, but it seems that Headmaster Dippet isn't as giving as old Dumbledore was. Either that or Canon Dumbles had some sort of alternate motive for giving Hermione the time turner. Seeing as he couldn't get a time turner, Tom and Druella only picked the 2 electives as nothing else stood out as overly interesting. Arithmancy is a magical discipline that studies the magical properties of numbers, including predicting the future with numbers and numerology. Wizards and witches who study and practice arithmancy are called arithmancers. The teacher at Hogwarts is said to be one of the best arithmancers in a very long time. The only problem is the class is all about numbers and gets tiring after a while. Not to mention the homework assignments, of which include writing essays that require the consultation and/or composition of complex numerical charts. Ancient runes are a form of writing which witches and wizards used thousands of years ago. These runes can be used the same way as normal runes, but usually hold more power than modern-day runes. If Tom were to fully learn ancient runes, he could enhance his future ritual by a good amount. He simply would have to replace some of the more modern runes with an ancient counterpart. The teacher of this class is alright, but Tom has to fight back the urge to fall asleep. The teacher knows what he's talking about, but the delivery is very monotone. Homework for this class is fairly high, which is annoying as well. Other classes were continuing as usual. Nothing of note was happening in any of Tom's normal classes. During Tom's alone time in the ROR, he's been looking into the Patronus charm and becoming an animagus. The Patronus charm, Expecto Patronum, is the most famous and one of the most powerful defensive charms known to wizardkind. It's an immensely complicated and extremely difficult spell that evokes a partially tangible positive energy force known as a Patronus or Spirit Guardian. It's the primary protection against Dementors and Lethifolds, against which there is no other defense. There are two types of Patronuses. First, corporeal, which means a Patronus with a particular shape and form, and incorporeal Patronus. Incorporeal Patronuses have no particular shape and do not protect against Dementors the way corporeal Patronuses do. Tom was extremely excited to see his Spirit Guardian and practiced the spell like crazy. The problem was that Tom needed a truly happy memory in order to cast the charm. Old Tom's memories were anything but happy, so Tom fell back on the memories of the light soul, Gregory. One memory ended up doing the trick. It was a memory of a very early birthday party, which his mother put a lot of effort into throw for him. His family wasn't anywhere near wealthy, but his mother saved money throughout the year for him. The day was perfect, and to a child, the perfect birthday party is a truly joyous occasion. It didn't take Tom more than a few weeks of practice to find his birthday memory. When Tom thought of this happy moment, he called out the spell, Expecto Patronum, and a light shone from his wand and an ethereal creature appeared before him. A corporeal thestral the same as the ones that pull the carriages to Hogwarts stood in front of Tom. It looked at him curiously for a moment, nodded its head at Tom as if to say hello, and disappeared back to wherever it came from. Tom was happy with his guardian spirit and tested the spell out many times just to see it again. He also tested out the corporeal and incorporeal versions of the spell. Other than that, Tom has read every book available about the animagus change. He wanted to know the best way to become an animagus and hoped he was a cool animal. He may commit suicide if he's a rat like Pettigrew or a bug like Skeeter. Tom was hoping for something like a magical creature but knew that was highly unlikely. He would gladly take some sort of big cat or wolf though. The best way to fully connect with your inner animal, as said in the books in the ROR, is to meditate and find the animal in your inner world. The book said to practice occlumency until he has access to his inner world, which Tom already does. Then once in that inner world, Tom must find a secluded spot and meditate in the inner world itself. Doing so is supposed to attract your inner animal and whatever it is will bond with you. Once the bonding is done to a certain extent, Tom will be able to perform his first shift into his spirit animal. Some books explained a potion that could speed things along by forcing the shift, but almost all of the meditation-style books warned against this. They stated that the bond will be stronger if the connection is earned and not forced. Since starting his inner world meditation, Tom still hasn't seen his spirit animal. He does feel like he's being watched by something, but that something hasn't shown itself just yet. Chapter 43, see 43 Eldritch Weaponry. As of this chapter, the Patreon is 15 chapters ahead at chapter 58. I'll be writing and posting at least 2 chapters tonight. Tom and Druella took the train out of Hogwarts as usual, but this time they were joined by Briar, who is Druella's brother, and Charles Potter. Briar has become the sort of leader to the council since Tom took over. Because of his sister's friendship with their lord, Briar has far more political clout than before. He took over fairly easily with some small assistance here and there from his sister, Druella. This didn't go unnoticed by Tom and he had no objection over the change. If Briar is found to be incompetent, then Tom could just simply replace him. As for Charles Potter, he became quick friends with Tom and Druella, which upset some of the more hardcore snake haters. Although most of the Gryffindor house is on fairly good terms with Tom and Druella, so most of the house didn't mind Potter's out-of-house friendships. "Hey, what are you guys doing during the break?" Charles asked as they take off down the tracks. Everyone went into a grand discussion about what their family was planning for the holidays. Tom lied and said he was going to celebrate with the children in the orphanage. He can't tell anyone of his sorcery training, at least not yet. He would trust Druella with it, but he's just grown used to keeping a few secrets from his friend. He'll tell her sooner or later, and maybe even teach her a few things once he becomes a master. After a long ride back to King's Cross Station, Tom said goodbye to his friends and found an abandoned area to portal into Camartage. He knows where all of the sanctums are now, but why bother when he can just open a portal? When he arrived, his teacher, Master Keto, attacked him the second he saw him. They exchange blows as Tom is pushed back and dodged his teacher's onslaught of attacks. Tom didn't slack on his martial arts practice during his few months at Hogwarts. He followed Keto's instructions and even went beyond the training schedule he was given. That training showed itself here and now, as he is lasting far more time against Master Keto. He's not winning by a long shot, but he's definitely starting to keep up with his teacher's movements. The impromptu spar lasted a good 8 minutes before Tom was swiftly knocked on his back. The second Tom hit the ground, he was breathing heavy and didn't get back up. He knew that he was beaten again by his teacher, but he also knew that he lasted far longer than usual. He may have been knocked on his ***, but pride swelled in his chest. He's improving with every bit of hard work he puts into his training. You haven't been slacking in your training, I see. Keto says as he offers his hand to help Tom up. Yeah. I didn't want to go through whatever crazy training you would put me through if I happened to slack off. Tom said as he accepts his teacher's hand and is pulled up to his feet. Good, I have nothing left to teach you, Tom. Keto says as he nods proudly at his student. This doesn't mean that you can't improve anymore, as compared to me you are quite weak. The only thing you need to do to improve now is gain experience, keep training, and most importantly grow. Tom knew that was one of the factors holding him back in his spars. He's still fairly young and his younger body will continue to hold him back. The fact that Tom could last so long against Keto already shows how skilled he has become in martial arts. Thanks for everything, Master Keto. Tom says as he bows to Keto. You're very welcome. Keto says with a proud smile on his face. Now, you must go and speak with the Ancient One. She will explain the next portion of your training. Keto says and walks away feeling proud of his youngest student. Tom went straight to the Ancient One and found her alone eating some junk food. One thing about the Ancient One that Tom has learned is her love of junk food. She's the opposite of Dumbledore as she likes salty snacks instead of sweets. She may hide it well, but as her disciple, Tom has a sort of unfettered access to her at all times. These times include what she would call her me time, which is when she turns off the leader part and busy part of her brain and acts far more normal. When Tom arrived, he saw his master curled up on the couch eating salty pretzels and reading a Muggle mystery novel. This is a part of the great and bald Ancient One that only her closest disciples get to see. Hello, teacher. Tom says as he enters the room. Oh, you're back. She says as she closes her book and stands to greet Tom. Yeah, I just finished a spar against Master Keto, and he said that I passed. He also said that you would explain the next portion of my training to me. Tom says with a bit of pride in his voice. Oh, so you didn't slack off as he feared. It's good that you didn't, as I saw the training schedule for you if that were to happen. Let's just say that Keto can be very cruel when he wants to be. She says with a wry smile. Hee hee, I'm not very surprised. Keto training is already backbreaking. Imagining his punishment training is a dreadful thought. Tom says as a shiver runs down his spine at the mere thought of it. So, what's the next part of my training? Ah, yes. The next part of your training will be to learn this. The Ancient One said as she summons Eldritch Whips. She molds the golden Eldritch energy into whips and spins them around a few times. After showing them off a bit, she then flings them forward and tied up Tom fairly easily. He just looks at his teacher with the, "Did you have to do that?" look. Eldritch Whips are defensive weapons, but once you've mastered them, you can do things like this. She ignores Tom's look and shows him something else. The golden whips disappear, releasing Tom, and the Ancient One calls forth the eldritch energy again. This time she summons a golden spear made of the same energy as the whips. Eldritch weaponry can be anything that you set your mind to. A spear as I have now, she says, and then the spear changes, or a sword as you're quite fond of them. She says, and a golden sword appears in her hand. Wow, that's pretty cool. Can you make whatever weapons you summon move without holding them? Tom asks as he imagines turning this ability into something like heat-seeking projectiles. I've never tried, but that could be possible. She says as she tries to levitate the sword. The problem would be in the summoning of the eldritch energy. We summon the energy and mold it with a part of our body, like the hands. When we theoretically let go of an eldritch construct, it tends to disappear. Although, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. You would just have to practice summoning and keeping the construct together at further ranges. This isn't something you have to worry about now, though. You have to learn to walk before trying to run. Master the art before trying to expand upon it further. Yes, teacher. Now, how should I go about constructing these whips? Chapter 44, C44 Mark. Tom spent the short Christmas break practicing with the eldritch whips almost constantly. He got to the point where he could summon a half-a-meter-long golden whip. He wasn't near being satisfied with his progress, but the Ancient One says he is progressing quickly. She rarely gives encouraging words like this, so Tom knew that he was doing well. Other than the whips, Tom has been scouring the library for anything that could connect him and his followers. Canon Voldemort had the dark mark, and Tom wants something like that. Although he doesn't want his mark to be as visible as the Canon one. He wants something that is a bit more conspicuous while also serving some sort of a purpose. After tearing through the Camartage library, Tom found a book on a curse that seemed perfect for his purposes. The curse is called the Liar's Mark. It's a curse that was placed on criminals in ancient times. The mark would be placed on someone by someone else, and the one that placed it would be able to tell if whoever has the mark is lying. It was mainly used to rout out thieves and settle disputes. Tom thought that he could combine that curse and his mark to create a way to tell when his followers are lying. The next step would be to somehow let Tom contact his followers through the mark as Canon Voldemort did, but better. Other than that, Tom wants to somehow be able to hide the mark from prying eyes. Tom doesn't need people connecting dots and wondering why all of his followers have the same tattoo. The only thing at Camartage that was able to help Tom with his mark was the book on the Liar's Mark. Nothing else that Tom found had anything that could help him with his other requirements. Though the library of Camartage is vast and Tom hasn't seen everything yet. Before returning to Hogwarts, Tom looked into some companies that he could invest in. He has been promising to send a list to Alumni for a long time now. The problem was that his busy schedule just kept getting in the way. Also, Tom is extremely rich, so he isn't too worried about future money problems. He took a few days to look into businesses, as he can't just write down future companies and send them to Alumni. What if they don't exist yet, or will never exist at all in this universe? He sent him a list of MCU companies along with some normal companies that he knew would do well from his time as Gregory. Once the list was compiled, Tom rolled it straight to Alumni. At first, Alumni was very skeptical about following Tom's judgment on these sorts of things. As a goblin, he's been trained from a young age to work in his field. In the mind of Alumni, Tom is brilliant but very young and inexperienced. Though that doesn't mean that Alumni didn't follow the investments Tom sent him. Alumni has been watching a few of the companies on Tom's list and liked them very much. The rest he wasn't so sure about, but he invested in them anyway. If they do well, then he underestimated the boy, but if they do bad, then Tom will learn a lesson about investing without experience and knowledge. Once Christmas break ended, Tom returned to Hogwarts once again. The back and forth between two separate schools has started to become tiresome for him. He may breeze through the classes at Hogwarts, but that doesn't make them any less tedious. Not that he hates it. No, Tom loves learning magic and bettering himself. He feels like he's playing a game, and with every day his character is getting stronger. The feeling of advancing forward and seeing that progress firsthand is great. Whether it be in magic, sorcery, or martial arts, Tom loves the feeling of moving to the next level, so to say. Although, he definitely needs a break sometime soon. A week of just doing nothing would be a euphoric time for someone that has been busy for so long. Maybe I'll take a week off at the start of summer. I could go to one of my many properties and spend the week being waited on by house elves and napping. Tom thought and immediately set that as his plan. When Tom returned to Hogwarts, the majority of his free time was spent piecing together his mark. He looked for any books in the ROR that could help him with his newest goal. Tom ended up finding a book on invisible ink. The ink would hide itself until magic is pumped into it in a certain code. Once the code was entered, the ink would show itself until another code is used to hide it. The code itself could be anything and is similar to Morse code, as it's made up of long and short spurts of magic. Tom didn't find a way to communicate through the marks in the ROR. He tried so many commands on the room and even tried looking through the library manually. Nothing appeared that Tom felt would help with his mark. Just when he thought his luck had run out, Mimsy asked if he wanted her to check the books from his properties. Tom almost forgot he had those books. He's been so busy that he doesn't even have time to stay at any one of his properties. He has had the elves cleaning them up though. They were a mess from being neglected for so many years. With Mimsy's idea to look into the books in his properties, Tom opened a portal to one of the manors that Slytherin used to own. This is the place that Tom had the elves house all of the books. It had the biggest library out of all the properties Tom owns. Even bigger than the castles under his name. Tom would then come to this manor at night looking for a book that could help him with the last piece of the puzzle. A couple of months before the end of the year, Tom finally found a book on runes that can be used for communication. They weren't fully tested and the creator died before fully developing them, but he saw this as the last piece of his puzzle. Tom has the way to keep the mark hidden, the lie detector, and a way to contact his followers. This is the perfect mark and now he just has to develop it, which will most definitely take some time. He has to combine all of these separate things into one functioning piece of magic. Not to mention the communication feature that still needs to be tested before application. Other than working on his personal studies, Tom has been training and teaching the Slytherin students every morning as usual. The majority of them have a good grip of occlumency and would be up to his standards by next year. The new rules in Slytherin have been enforced very harshly in the beginning. Tom needed to make an example out of anyone that would go against his rules. The number of people that did so was very small though. Some students still thought they could act as they usually do, as long as no one from Slytherin was there to see. These people were those that would bully Muggle-born students. Especially the younger ones as they are the easiest targets. The punishments weren't too crazy, as those being punished are children, but Tom made sure to make them regret not following the rules. The House Cup went to the Ravenclaws this year, as Tom ordered his followers to keep their points low. They have been winning every year since Tom joined Slytherin, and he doesn't want to create bad blood between the houses over something that truly doesn't matter. When Tom and his group left the school, Tom couldn't help but be excited over his small vacation. He plans to do nothing for a whole week. Just the idea of that 1 week off relaxes his tired mind. Chapter 45, see 45 Vacation. When his third year of Hogwarts ended, Tom rode the train with Druella and Briar. Charles is in another compartment with his friends from Gryffindor, so it's just the three of them. They've been on the train for a while and should be arriving at King's Cross soon. Throughout the whole ride, Briar has been acting a bit twitchy, as if he has something to say but is unsure of how and when to say it. This didn't go unnoticed by Tom, while Druella seemed to be getting annoyed with her brother's behavior. Speak up already. Watching you squirm around is giving me anxiety. Druella exclaims as she glares at her brother. Yes, I agree. What's got you so jumpy? Tom says as he brings all of his attention to Briar. Well, you see. Some of the Slytherin parents are asking questions about the changes at Hogwarts, including our own, Druella. He says and an annoyed pout graces her lips. Tell them to mind their own business. She says as he pout deepens. Tom could easily tell that her relationship with her parents has strained. This is no doubt the outcome of her choice to befriend him, so he feels a bit bad about it. If she didn't befriend him, she would most likely have a good relationship with her parents. Stop right there. Druella calls as she notices Tom's sudden change in emotions. If you're thinking that it's your fault my parents are **** holes, then you're wrong, so stop with the self-deprecation. They were always the way they are now, but now they don't see me as the perfect pureblood princess. If they knew that you were the heir to Slytherin, then they would be over the moon with my choice in friends. Like I said many times before, being friends with you is probably the best thing that has ever happened to me. Don't worry about the small stuff. It's not like my parents beat me or starve me. They just tend to ignore me, which truthfully isn't so bad. She says as she tries to comfort her friend. Yes, this moment between you guys is great and all, but our parents aren't the only problem. Briar interrupts with a worried look. I agree that it's a problem that the parents are becoming suspicious, but this is a problem that I will put to the back of my list for now. I don't trust the parents to reveal myself to them. At the moment I'm too young for them to respect me and too weak to fight grown wizards. Once I've become powerful enough, I'll recruit the parents as I did their children. Tom says as he looks out the window. I agree, but what if they question their children with legitimacy or veritaserum? Druella adds. Everyone has been progressing well in occlumency. Some are falling behind the rest, but they're all up to a pretty good standard. If a parent were to break into their child's mind, then I'll deal with the outcome as it happens. As for the truth serum, that is very unlikely to happen, so I'm not going to worry about it. Tom says as he shrugs his shoulder. So, your strategy is to do nothing? Briar asks questioningly. Yeah, sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all. Tom replies and Briar looked unsure about everything. Don't worry so much, Briar. I'll take care of anything that happens. Tom says with a confident smile. All right. Briar says, but he still feels unsure. Seeing that nothing he says is really helping, Tom just spends the rest of the train ride reading one of the Ancient One's mystery novels. After spending so much time with her, Tom has grown a small liking to these types of books. He plans to spend the week before heading to Camartage with this book as well. When they arrived at the station and said goodbye, Tom found a secluded area and opened a portal to one of his homes in the United States. The rest of the world is embroiled in war, while America is sitting on the sidelines still. They won't enter into World War II until Pearl Harbor is bombed by Japan. This won't happen until December 7, 1941, which will take place before the Christmas break in Tom's 4th year at Hogwarts. Even then the United States itself won't be invaded, so Tom can still spend his vacation time there without worry. Speaking of the war, Tom is still hoping to participate in it. He wants to do a few things during this war. One of them is killing Grindelwald and taking the Elder Wand, of course. The second is meeting and befriending Captain America. Before that though, he wishes to steal the formula that made the short skinny boy into the powerhouse that is Captain America. Lastly, Tom wants to steal the Tesseract and take the Space Stone from within. At first, Tom wanted to follow Cannon and take the stones at the perfect moment. That idea was thrown to the wayside when he thought of that plan failing. His mere presence will change the future, and letting such a powerful item go could come back to bite him in the future. The best outcome would be to get as many stones as he can before Thanos. I don't understand why Thanos didn't just use the stones to help people in a different way than just proofing half of them away. He could have grown every inhabitable planet until there was enough land for trillions and trillions of people. He could have made plants grow in abundance for harvests. He could have terraformed every dead planet into a habitable wonderland, yet he uses his powers to simply cut the universe's population in half. Truly a waste of such overpowered abilities. Tom thought as he lounged on the couch reading and eating potato chips. He arrived at his vacation home in New York a few days ago. The time here has been spent on absolutely nothing at all. He hasn't exercised, read anything, and most of his time is spent on this very couch. It's been a beautiful holiday from the busy life he's been leading so far. While stuffing his face with chips, Tom realizes that he's turning into his master, the Ancient One. She does the exact same thing that he's doing right now. I guess when you spend enough time with someone, their habits will rub off onto you. Tom thought with a shrug as he continued eating his potato chips. Sadly, good things must come to an end. After a week of doing nothing while being waited on by house elves, Tom had to return to Camartage to continue his training. The elves were sad to see him go, as this last week has been their moment to shine. They enjoyed waiting on their master more than anything. With sad elves saying their goodbyes, Tom opened a portal to Camartage and walked through. I'll have to set up another vacation, but withdrew this time. Maybe sometime after the war is over. Chapter 46, see 46 urgent letter. When Tom arrived at Camartage, he was met with his master the Ancient One. He portaled straight into her private quarters. She was floating in the middle of the room while using the time stone to look into the future. This tends to happen every few days as the Ancient One likes to be up to date on the possible futures. Seeing that she is busy, Tom browsed her collection of mystery novels. He already finished the one he has, so he needed another one. After finding an interesting book, Tom sat on the couch and started reading. "I see you're back from the vacation," the Ancient One says as she awakens from her trance. "Yeah, it was the best. Doing nothing is the best thing to do," Tom replies as he closes his book. He managed to get through 2 chapters while waiting for his teacher to be finished. Once the Ancient One heard his reply, she couldn't help but agree with his statement. "Have you improved in the use of Eldritch Whips?" she asks as she takes a seat across Tom. "Yeah, I've pretty much mastered them," Tom replies with a proud smile. "Good, show me how much you've improved," she says, sitting back to examine Tom's progress. Tom then places his hands together and summons the Eldritch energy. Once the energy is flowing, Tom pulls his hands apart and 2 whips extend from his hands. One on the left and another on the right. He then starts extending the whips and whipping them around to show his mastery over them. "Very good, you can stop now," the Ancient One says, and Tom stops drawing on the Eldritch energy. The whips disappear and he takes a seat across his teacher once again. "Now we can move on to different constructs." As the Ancient One says this, she constructs a broadsword out of Eldritch energy. She then waves it around a bit for Tom to get a good look at it. "This will be the first construct you will focus on. You chose the sword as your weapon of choice, so it will be the first construct you work on," she says, and the sword disappears from her grip. "Once you've mastered this, you will become a disciple, which is only 1 step below being a master of the mystic arts." Hearing how close he is to becoming a master, Tom started to grow excited. Once he becomes a master, Tom will be able to get his own relic like Doctor Strange's cape. He knew his master wouldn't give him any pointers, so he said goodbye and went straight to practice. The Ancient One watched her favorite student leave with a smile on her face. He may not be the most skilled in the mystic arts she's ever seen, but he was still her favorite. Sometimes the hard-working students shine brighter than any prodigy. Not to say that Tom isn't skilled in sorcery. She would say that Tom is slightly above average, but with his hard work, he could become far stronger than her one day. Although, she doubted that she would be alive to see that day. The best possible future still involves her death. "I've been alive long enough. I'm sure my predecessor will handle my job wonderfully," she thought, but deep down she was afraid of the unknown that is death. Once Tom left the Ancient One, he went straight to a private training area. There he started working on constructing his weapon. He would draw the Eldritch energy and try molding it into the perfect sword. The first day was spent trying and failing to do so, but he still didn't give up. Tom spent every day of the summer molding Eldritch energy. He tried some basic things like molding the energy into shapes. When he mastered the easier shapes like circles and squares, Tom moved on to more difficult and elaborate shapes. Other than working on his Eldritch weapon, Tom has been following his training as normal. Though his spare time has been spent on creating the mark for his followers. The mark itself is a hard thing to make. Tom has to combine 3 separate pieces of magic and transform them into his own creation. Not to say that Tom can't do it. He is inching closer and closer to the finish line, but it's very time-consuming. While Tom was working on the mark in the middle of summer break, an owl flew into the window and dropped a letter in front of him. The owl looked tired from a long journey and was about to fall asleep at any moment. Tom couldn't tell whose owl this was, but it's not like he memorized everyone's pets. Tom casts a few detection spells on the owl and the letter just to be safe. When he sees that there are no traps or anything of that sort, Tom opens the letter and starts reading. With every word he reads, Tom's blood starts to boil. "My lord. You must hurry. My parents plan to use Veridiserum on Druella. They know the risks of using such a potion on someone so young, yet they don't listen to me. They have been hounding us to tell them what's going on at Hogwarts, and we've been playing it off as if nothing has happened. Although, that didn't seem to work. They ordered the potion from a master potion maker, and it will arrive within the week. Until then, Druella has been put on house arrest. She isn't allowed to leave the house and the wards are keeping her from escaping. The potion is set to arrive on July 29th. Hopefully, this gets to you in time. Briar Rosier." It seems I was wrong about the odds of a parent using Veridiserum on their child. Tom thought as he checked the date. It's the 26th, so Tom has a bit of time before the potion arrives. He already knows where Druella lives, so he can go there anytime with a portal. The question is, how strong are her parents and is there anyone else on the grounds? Seeing as Druella's parents are pureblood nobles, they have most likely been through the best schooling and training that money can buy. This means that Tom may not be strong enough to beat them head-on. He'll have to take them by surprise and either capture them or kill them. Based on the way Druella speaks of them, she wouldn't be too torn up about their deaths. Although she wouldn't be overly sad, Tom still would rather not kill his best friend's parents. As for whether anyone else is there besides the Rosier family, Tom doesn't know and won't know until he checks for himself. He could open a portal and send in an elf to gather information, but would that elf be found out somehow? He'll have to ask his elves if they could go unnoticed or not. I'll take them by surprise and capture them. If something goes wrong, then I'll go straight for the kill. Tom thought as he drops his current work on the mark and leaves to get some things together. Maybe I should ask the Ancient One for help. Nah, I can handle this on my own, but a few backup plans wouldn't be bad. Chapter 47, C-47 Preparation. Seeing that Tom has time before the potion arrives at Rosier Manor, he decided to prepare fully for this encounter. Tom has never faced off against a grown wizard and doesn't know what to expect. The best course of action would be to gather information, and the best way to gather information is by sending a house elf. The problem with this plan is Tom doesn't know if an elf could be found out somehow. Can the Rosier elves sense the intrusion from one of their kind, or would the wards pick up on an uninvited guest? Mimsy. Tom calls and his most trusted elf appears with a pop. Master called for Mimsy. She says with an eager expression. Yes, I need to know a few things about house elves, Tom says. Mimsy will tell Master all he wants to know. She says with a happy smile. Thank you. First, if I were to send an elf to a warded noble's house with a portal, would the wards alert the owners of your arrival? Tom asks and Mimsy thinks for a second. Mimsy places her hand on her chin and thinks really hard. If we was poppin' in, then yes, the wards will block us and tell the master of the house. I'm not sure about Master's portals though. Sorry, I'm not helpin', Master. She says and her ears lower with sadness. That's okay, Mimsy. Just answering truthfully will help me a lot. Tom pats her bald head. What about the house elves already in the home? Would they notice your arrival somehow? As long as we hide, the other elves won't notice us. Mimsy says proudly as she gets back her confidence. Good, I need to go and look into wards. You may return to whatever you were doing before I called. I'll call for you again soon as I may have an important mission for you and the other elves. Tom says and looked eager to fulfill her master's mission. Mimsy will be ready at all times for Master's call. She says as she radiates happiness and pops away. I have the best house elf. Tom thought as he leaves the room and makes his way to the Ancient One's quarters. It's late in the evening but she should still be awake. Most likely reading her mystery novels, Tom thought as he knocks on the door. After a moment of waiting, a slightly annoyed-looking Ancient One answers their door. Why do people have to bother me during my precious reading time? The Ancient One thought as she opened the door and is met with her favorite student. What's the matter, Tom? She asks as Tom knows this is the time she spends relaxing and wouldn't interrupt if he didn't have to. May I speak with you inside for a moment? He says and she steps aside for him to enter. They move into her private quarters and sit opposite one another in the living area. What happened? She asks as she conjures some tea for herself and her student. I need some information about wizarding wards. Some of my plans are at risk and a friend is in trouble. I have some time to prepare but I need some information first. Tom says plainly. And what would I receive in exchange? She asks as she sees this as a perfect time to get some info on her most mysterious student. The only person on this earth that the Ancient One can't see with the time stone is Tom. She wants to solve this puzzle but Tom is a very private person. Throughout his study and training at Camartage, Tom has revealed very little to her. This is the opportunity she's been waiting for and she definitely won't pass it up. What would you like in return? He asks, hoping it's nothing unreasonable. Tom trusts his teacher to not do anything that would cause him harm, so he doesn't mind trading for the information. I'll help you as long as you reveal a single high-level secret about yourself to me. After you've told it to me, you must swear on your magic that it is the truth, she says as she sips her tea and Tom weighs his options. Fine, but for that I also want your promise that you won't reveal it to anyone. You can't make a vow in your magic as we wizards do, so I'll take a normal promise. Tom says as he trusts the Ancient One. Deal. I promise I won't reveal the secret you're about to tell me. She says with ease as she had no plans to reveal it anyway. What should I tell you? Tom thinks for a minute and decides on his secret. I'm the heir to 3 very old and powerful noble families in the wizarding world. One of them is the most noble and ancient house of Slytherin. He revealed but didn't say anything about the other 2 houses. Ah, so you're related to the little snake, huh? I've met him a few times in the past. The Ancient One says as she remembers her meeting with Tom's ancestor. What are the other 2? I'll save those for when I need something from you again. Tom says with a smirk, and his teacher pouted at him but doesn't ask further. Tom then makes a vow on his magic that what he revealed is the truth as he promised. The Ancient One feels happy to learn more about her student. She'll keep asking for secrets whenever he needs something like this. Sooner or later he'll run out of secrets and she'll hopefully know why she can't see him. Alright, what do you need to know about wizarding wards? She asks, and Tom starts throwing out questions. First, he asked her the same question he asked Mimsy. Would the wards pick up the opening of a portal in a noble wizard's home? Apparently, they would. The Ancient One said that the wards will 100% pick up on a portal that's opened on the property. Especially in the home of a noble family, as they should have better wards than others. Tom then asked if there is a way to get past the wards without being noticed. The Ancient One then snapped her fingers and a book appears in Tom's lap. That is a book on subverting and bypassing wards. Read it and you should be fine. The Ancient One says as she picks up her mystery novel. That is the full payment for the secret you told me. If you need anything else, feel free to come at any time. I would love to learn more about my students' secrets. She says as she shoos Tom away and opens her book to the page she left off. Tom isn't interested in revealing any more of his secrets, so he leaves the room swiftly. He goes back to his room and starts speed reading the book given to him by the Ancient One. Tom stayed up the rest of the night studying the book. His perfect recall working at the max to remember every word and blemish on the pages. With the knowledge from this book, Tom seems to have everything he needs to get past the wards. It would take some time to set everything up, but he has a few days. He'll need these few days to make sure that everything is perfect. If he messes up when sneaking past the wards, he may be attacked by the wards themselves. That would be worse than being caught by Lord and Lady Rosier. At least with them, Tom can try to woo them with the whole heir of Slytherin thing. Now the question is how he will take care of Druella's parents. He needs to get the drop on them somehow, but before worrying about that, Tom needs to start working on getting past the wards. Then he can send an elf in to scout the Chapter 48, C-48 Rosier Manor. After spending the whole night studying the book that his teacher gave him, Tom didn't get any sleep, nor would he sleep at all the next day. He had too much to prepare and get ready for his encounter at Rosier Manor. In order to stay up and alert, Tom would drink some pepper-up potions. He's up to a good enough standard in potions where he could make them on his own now, so he always has a store of some just for emergencies along with other helpful potions. When morning came, Tom started working on the easiest way to subvert the wards. This way will only work if he has a person on the inside helping him out. There were many other possible avenues to pass the wards, but they would take more time to prepare. Tom has Briar to work on the inside, so thankfully he could take the easier way in. Tom could probably trade a secret to the Ancient One and she would help, but he would rather save those instances for emergencies. He makes a mental note to practice everything in the book though. The ability to bypass wards unnoticed will definitely come in handy down the line. With renewed vigor thanks to the pepper-up potion, Tom spent the entire day drawing runes, arrays, and other symbols. He needs to prepare some things to send to Briar before anything can happen. He would send it to Druella, but Tom doesn't know if her parents are reading her mail. The fact that her brother could send a letter tells him that they shouldn't be going through Briar's mail. Hopefully, that assumption is correct. Briar's owl is still relaxing in Tom's room as well. The journey was long and the bird needed a break. Tom has decided to send everything with the owl as to not cause suspicion with a delivery from his owl. He sends mail to Druella fairly frequently, so her parents most likely know Tom's owl by now. By the end of the day, Tom was exhausted, but he finished a nice package for Briar. At this time, Briar's owl was fully rested and fed. Tom opened a portal in the sky above London and ushered the owl through. At first, the thing was freaked out and didn't want to go anywhere near the portal, but Tom was far too tired to deal with this, so he cast the Imperious Curse on it and sent it on its way. After sending out the owl, Tom went straight to bed. The few pepper-up potions that he took throughout the day took a toll on his young body. Before bed, Tom told Mimsy to wake him up bright and early. He can't risk oversleeping due to exhaustion. Collapsing on his bed, Tom fell asleep the second his head touched the pillow. Rosier Manor. In a beautiful room built for a high-standing noblewoman, Druella Rosier lay in her bed plotting against her annoying parents. When she returned to her home after her third year of Hogwarts, she has been constantly pestered by her parents. They kept asking questions about school and why things started changing so quickly. As the summer went on, Druella started missing the days when her parents would just ignore her existence. Although, that isn't how her parents always treated her. Treatment like that only began when she entered Hogwarts and befriended Tom. They used to treat her like their greatest treasure and pamper her to no end. Though she would never change her decision in backing Tom. She said it before and she'll say it again. Befriending Tom was the smartest and luckiest moment of her entire life. A few days ago, Druella's parents couldn't take it anymore and decided to use legilimency on their daughter. The second they tried, they received a backlash that gave them a slight migraine. She's been training her occlumency under Tom for 3 years now, so that was the outcome she knew would happen. After receiving such a backlash, her parents became even more suspicious and prohibited her from leaving the house. They then swiftly ordered a vial of Veridiserum to use on her. They knew the risks of using such a potent potion on a witch that isn't fully developed, yet they still chose to use it on their own daughter. Druella has tried leaving the house many times. Through the windows, out the back door, and she even thought about trying apparition. Though she gave up on the last idea as she could splint herself into many gruesome pieces without practice. Every time she would put a single part of her body outside the house, Druella would be teleported back into the living room. The worst part about it was that her parents would be notified every single time. This made their suspicions grow with every escape attempt. Something was going on at that school and their daughter knew enough to try and escape before taking a truth potion. While Druella was plotting against her parents, her brother Briar was sitting in his room waiting for the return of his owl. He sent an owl to his lord days ago and has been nervously waiting ever since. Suddenly, his owl flew through his open window and drops a sealed package onto the bed. Briar wastes no time opening the package as he knows it has to be from his lord. Inside the package is a letter with instructions and countless papers with tons of symbols and arrays. Some of the symbols Briar could understand, but the majority looked like gibberish to him. The instructions he was given explained that he needed to find a secluded area in his house and place the papers together like a puzzle along with a few other steps. Everything was explained in the simplest format so there wouldn't be any screw-ups. Knowing that his lord has a plan, Briar gets to work immediately. He goes to his closet and starts setting everything up. It should be spacious enough for everything. Following the directions to the letter, Briar sets everything up as his lord wrote in the letter. This took him the whole day as he wanted to make sure everything was perfect. His master warned about any possible mistakes. When he was finished and 100% sure that everything was perfect, Briar went over to the package and picked up a piece of paper that said, "Tear this once everything is set up." After tearing it into pieces, Briar burned all of the evidence and went straight to sleep. He worked all night and would need his strength for when his lord arrived. If he were to arrive while he's still asleep, Tom would just wake him up. Camartage. As Tom sleeps comfortably in his bed, a piece of paper on his nightstand tears into pieces. When he's woken up by Mimsy early in the morning, the first thing he does is turn to see the paper. A smile forms on his face when he sees that it's torn apart. Good, he completed the preparations quicker than expected. Tom says as the image up Briar Rosier raises a few notches in his mind. Mimsy, I have a job for one of the elves. Whichever is the stealthiest of the bunch should work nicely. Mimsy can do it herself then. Mimsy says as she sticks her chest out in pride. Chapter 49, C-49 Mimsy Recon Mission. Seeing as Mimsy was so confident in her stealth abilities, Tom would send her to scout Rosier Manor. He brought her to the corner of his room that was painted with symbols. It looked like Tom was going to perform a ritual in the corner of his bedroom. Mimsy, show me your chest for a moment. Tom says as he pulls out a piece of paper with red symbols on it. Master. I don't know if we should do this. Mimsy says as a blush forms on her gray-skinned face. What are you talking about? Just show me your chest. He replies, not understanding what his head elf is thinking. But, I'm just a servant. Mimsy isn't worthy of Master's love. Mimsy says dramatically as she covers her chest. That's not what I meant. Tom exclaims as he realizes what Mimsy is talking about. I just need to stick this paper on your chest. It will hide you from being noticed by the wards while exploring the house. Once Mimsy realized that her master wasn't asking for her purity, she pulled down her clothes and allowed Tom to place the paper on her chest. Speaking of her clothes, Tom has made it a rule that all of his elves must dress nicely. They represent him, so they should dress the part. At first, they thought he was going to give them clothes and freaked out. Seeing as the mere thought of receiving clothes scares the daylights out of his servants, Tom ordered them to make their own clothes in the style of butlers and maids. It took a bit of practice, but with the help of magic, they were able to start dressing nicely. Good, take this. He hands her 2 pieces of paper. The red one is for emergencies. Rip it and I'll know that something bad has happened. The white one is to tell me that you've finished the job. Now, do you see that circle over there? Tom says as he points to an open area in the mess of symbols. She nods her head as she sees what Tom is pointing at. I need you to stand there, but don't smudge any of the symbols, please. Mimsy nods her head and pops straight into the circle so she doesn't ruin her master's work. I'm going to send you to Rosier Manor. The Lord and Lady of the house are blood purists and most likely bad masters to their elves, so be careful, okay? Mimsy nods her head from her place in the circle. Good, I need you to scout the place out for me. Who's in the house? What's in the house? Is anyone supposed to be arriving? Where are their wands? Do they have any backup wands? Get me as much information as you can, because it could very well save my life. Also, if you have the chance, steal the wands of every person in the house. Except for the 2 children, Briar and Druella. They serve me as you do, so they can keep their wands. Don't take any wands if the opportunity isn't there. I don't need my head elf getting killed, after all. Do you understand? Tom asked. Yes, Master. Mimsy will take care of everything, she says with determination. A wizard without a wand is just a normal human and will make my job a lot easier. Tom thought as taking down grown wizards would be challenging for him, but without a wand, he could easily handle them. I'm glad to see you motivated, but be on alert. I don't want to lose my favorite elf. Tom says as Mimsy breaks out into tears. I'll be vigilant, Master. Nothing will take Mimsy from her kind-hearted master. She says with a blinding smile and a face full of tears. As long as you're careful, I have nothing to worry about. Tom says and waits a minute for Mimsy to calm down a bit. Are you ready? Yes. Then I'll see you on the other side. When you finish all of your work, I'll be coming in the same way as you, so be sure to meet me there. Remember to use the white and red papers. Also, don't ruin the papers when you arrive. You'll know what I mean when you see it. Tom reminds her as he places his hand on a certain set of symbols. Good luck, Mimsy. As Tom says this, he calls upon the eldritch energy and pushes it through his hand and into the symbols. Everything lights up and a blinding light envelopes Mimsy. When the light dies down, everything is as it was except for Mimsy. She's no longer in the room and had hopefully been sent to the Rosier Manor. Tom then starts preparing for when Mimsy will alert him to her situation. He has his own set of papers linked to hers and they're in his peripheral vision at all time. Rosier Manor. In the very early morning of the 28th of July, a bright light shines through the cracks of Briar Rosier's closet. Briar himself is still fast asleep on his bed and won't wake for a few hours. As the light dies down in the closet, Mimsy the house elf could be seen standing in the middle of a bunch of papers with symbols on them. The second she arrived, Mimsy disappears and stealthily exits the closet. On her way out, she makes sure not to mess up any of the papers as her master ordered. Mimsy then goes room to room searching the entire manor. Throughout her search, she makes sure not to run into anyone, especially the house elves. After scouting the home from top to bottom, Mimsy found that the house doesn't have that many residents. Only Lord and Lady Rosier and their 2 children live in the manor. Other than them, the house is maintained by 5 house elves. Once Mimsy finished scouting the home, she started snooping on the Lord and Lady. They've been up and awake since before her arrival. The children already served her master, so she had no reason to spy on them. Mimsy didn't learn much, but they didn't seem to be preparing for anyone's arrival, so that was good. Her next goal was to find the Lord and Lady's wands. She found out that both of them have their wands in a wand holster on their person at all times. Each holster is enchanted to block others from summoning the wands. This will stop her from stealing the wands, but she also found some spare wands hidden around the house. She stole every spare wand she could find, broke them, and put them in the closet she arrived in away from the papers on the floor. Seeing as she couldn't find out any more information, Mimsy ripped the white paper and waited in the closet. Briar is still soundly asleep on his bed outside the closet. A half an hour after the white paper was torn apart, the closet lit up and Tom appeared surrounded by the papers on the floor. He looked over to Mimsy with a pleased expression on his face. Everything seemed to be going well. What have you found out so far? Tom asks and Mimsy tells him everything. Good job. Before Tom could continue speaking, the closet opens to reveal a groggy-looking Briar Rosier. He must have woken up and seen the light from Tom's arrival. My lord, he says with a happy smile. It's good you're here. Yeah, I just arrived. Tom says as he peeks out of the closet to make sure the door to Briar's room is closed. What are we going to do about my parents? We can't let them use that potion on Druella. Who knows how it will affect her? Briar exclaims with a worried expression. Before we get into this, go get Druella and bring her here, Mimsy. Be sure to tell her that you're my head elf. Make sure to avoid the parents on the way there and back. Tom says and Mimsy goes invisible again and makes her way to Druella's room. While we're waiting for the girls to arrive, do you have any pertinent information for me? Chapter 50, C50 Druella's plan. On the morning Tom arrived at Rosier Manor, Druella woke up with a plan. At first, she wanted to find the manor's ward stone and mess with it so she could leave. That plan was immediately thrown away as she had no idea how wards are made and how to change them. The plan for the day is to somehow get her parents' wands and make them let her go. She can't risk spilling any of Tom's secrets. Not when she just started gaining more of his trust. If she were to spill her friend's secrets, Tom would never trust her again. Of course, he wouldn't blame her as she had no control over it, but he wouldn't tell her any more secrets, that's for sure. As she woke up bright and early, she hoped that her parents were still asleep. Druella grabbed her wand and made her way to the door, but before she could leave, a house elf appeared in front of her. Out of sheer reaction, she pointed her wand at the elf and fired a spell. Stupefy. Druella calls as she tries to create some distance between her and the elf. Poor Mimsy, who was just coming to get her master's friend, was hit by the stunner and fell over frozen in place on the floor. Before she was hit, Mimsy tried to reach for the red paper given to her for emergencies, but she wasn't fast enough and succumbed to the spell. Druella left the elf in the room and swiftly started searching for her parents. She didn't notice that Mimsy wasn't one of the elves that normally works in the manor. Nor did she notice that Mimsy was dressed in finer clothing than those elves as well. Her mind was pointed in one direction, and that was getting out of this house before the next day arrives. While Druella was on the warpath, Tom was being briefed on everything Briar knows about this situation. Apparently, the other Slytherin parents are suspicious as well, so they all had a sort of meeting and agreed to wait for the information from the Rosiers. They would never subject one of their children to Verita serum, so they let the Rosiers use it on their wayward daughter. Some of the more ruthless parents tried to use legilimency on their children as the Rosiers did to Druella, but were blocked all the same. The princes, who are known to produce good potion masters, volunteered to make the truth serum themselves. Of course, a potion of that caliber would take time and they didn't have any stored away at the moment. I guess Snape had potion making in his blood. If only he had teaching somewhere in there as well. Tom thought when he heard this. Lord Prince is supposed to be delivering the potion tomorrow and will be sitting in on Druella's questioning. Lords Rosier and Prince will then attend a meeting with some Slytherin alumni and tell them what they heard. The large majority of these Slytherin alumni are the parents of the current Slytherin children. I can work with this. Tom thought as Briar finished explaining. Good work, Briar. Leaving you as head of the council wasn't a bad idea. It's too bad that you've already graduated. Thank you, my lord. Briar says with a happy smile. Briar won't be returning to Hogwarts next year as he just graduated. He won't have many chances to impress his lord, so the fact that he can be of help now is good. His standing will rise and he won't have to worry about falling behind the other Slytherins. Where the hell are Druella and Mimsy? Tom said as he started growing impatient. Maybe, Druella is with our parents and Mimsy is waiting until they separate. Briar says as he peeks over at the clock on his wall. She has only been gone for about 10 minutes. That's wishful thinking, Briar. Tom says as he starts thinking. Something is wrong. Are you sure? Maybe we should wait a couple more minutes. Briar says as he starts to worry a bit as well. No, Mimsy is taking too long, which means that something unforeseen has happened. Tom says as he checks the paper linked to Mimsy's emergency paper. Nothing is wrong with it. No tears or rips and not even a crinkle. *CK it. We're going to have to do this without them. Follow me. Tom would open a portal to the mirror dimension to survey the area, but the wards would pick up on that. He could also use his astral projection, but his spiritual body wouldn't have the paper which is currently on his chest that hides him from the wards. The only thing cloaking him and Mimsy from the wards right now are those papers. Without them, they would be discovered immediately. Tom and Briar leave the room stealthily and start searching for Lord and Lady Rosier. Without Mimsy's help, Tom has no idea if he'll run into any of the Rosier elves. He does know from Mimsy's earlier report that Lord and Lady Rosier were in the living room, but that information is a bit dated. While Tom and Briar were still talking in her brother's room, Druella has found her parents eating breakfast in the dining room. She saunters in and takes her place at the table without gracing her birth-givers with a single word. She has to wait for the best moment to strike, and now wasn't it? If she were to hide and stalk them around the place, they may discover her or an elf may report what's going on. The best course of action is to act normal and wait for the moment to strike. The elves bring her breakfast and she starts eating without acknowledging her parents' existence. This seems to anger her parents as they are starting to get fed up with their daughter's attitude. Their status has taken a big drop due to her actions, yet she has the nerve to act this way. They just wish that she would renounce that mudblood friend of hers and make everything right, but that is a very doubtful situation. Druella, would you stop acting like this already? Just tell us what is happening at that school and we won't have to go through with using the truth potion. We don't want to use it either, but you have to see reason before it's too late. Druella's mother, Lady Francesca Rosier, says as she hopes her daughter would go back to the way she was before she met that muggle-born. Druella simply ignores her mother and continues eating her breakfast. When her daughter doesn't reply to her, she starts to frown and sighs openly. There's no point, dear. Lord Orlando Rosier says as he finishes his food. I'm afraid our daughter isn't who we once knew her to be. He says as he gets up to leave the room. This is my chance. Druella thought as her father leaves the dining room. With my father gone, I can deal with my mother first. As her father leaves the room, Druella puts her head down and pretends to be affected by his words. She turns on the waterworks and starts openly sobbing. The second her mother sees Druella like this, she is stunned for a moment but gets up and tries to console her daughter. Lady Rosier takes her daughter into her arms and tries her best to calm her down. It's all right, sweetheart. Just tell us what's happening at school and everything will be okay. We're worried about you, you know. What if something horrible is happening there and we don't know anything about it? How are we supposed to help if we don't know what's happening? She says as she holds her sobbing daughter in her embrace. But. Druella stutters as she pulls away from her mother. But what, sweetie? Lady Rosier asks as she separates from her daughter. But I'm not telling you anything. Druella says as she grasps her mother's wand in her left hand. What? Lady Rosier exclaims as Druella draws her wand and aims it at her. Stupefy. Druella calls out and her mother drops to the ground like a sack of bricks. What are you doing? Lord Rosier shouts as he entered the dining hall to grab his smoking pipe that he left behind. Chapter 51, C51 Easy. When Tom and Briar hear a shout coming from downstairs and start running in that direction. On their way to where the shout originated, sounds of a fight could be heard. They could hear spells being called and the sounds of things breaking. When they arrive at the dining room, they're met with the scene of Druella fighting her father and losing pretty badly. Lord Rosier looked pissed as he fired spell after spell at his daughter. Druella could do nothing but dodge for her life and hope for an opening to appear. She didn't want to fight her father head-on like this in the first place. The plan was to be sneaky and get the drop on him after finishing with her mother. When Tom and Briar saw the state of the room, they knew what happened. Druella probably tried to attack her parents in order to escape. She must have stunned her mother, and that had to have angered her father enough to start the fight they see before them. Good job, Drew. You've made my work far easier than expected. Tom says as pulls his wand and aims at the back of Lord Rosier. Expelliarmus. Red lightning-looking magic fires from Tom's wand and strikes the unsuspecting Lord Rosier clean in the back. His wand goes flying out of his hand and Druella finally saw her opening. As the wand goes hurling into the air, she fires a stunner at her father. It lands perfectly and Lord Rosier joins his wife on the floor frozen in place. Hey there, Drew. You're welcome for disarming him, by the way. Tom says as he strolls into the room, revealing himself to his friend. Tom. How did you? Druella was about to ask how he got here or how he even knew to come, but then she saw her brother behind him and everything made sense. Briar contacted you. Yup, it's good that he did too. Tom says as he walks up to Lord and Lady Rosier and takes their wands. He makes sure to pat them down to be sure that there are no spares hidden anywhere. Have you seen my house elf? I sent her to find you, but I haven't heard from her since. Huh? I haven't seen. She was about to deny seeing any house elf, but then realization dawned on her. I may have thought it was one of my parents' elves and stunned her. Druella says with an awkward expression. *I would be mad, but you made my job a lot easier with this distraction. Where is she? Tom says as he opens portals to the mirror dimension under Lord and Lady Rosier. She's in my room. Druella says as she sees her parents fall into the same portals as the Slytherin students once did. Did you send them to that mirror place again? Yeah, we'll deal with them in a bit. First, let's go and check on my elf. Tom says as he goes to leave the room, but a few house elves stand in his way. What happened to the master and mistress? One of the more brave elves asked as he tried and failed to look threatening. Winky, go back to your duties. Mother and father are fine and will return shortly. Briar says as he shoos the elves away. But, young master. No buts. Run along and continue your work. Actually, start getting this room cleaned up first. Briar says as he gestures to the destroyed room. When the elves give in and start getting to work, Druella leads Tom to her room. Inside they find poor Mimsy frozen in place on the floor with her hand in her pocket. Enervate. Tom calls as he points his wand at his downed house elf. The second Mimsy unfreezes, she pulls a red paper from her pocket and rips it in half. Simultaneously, the paper in Tom's pocket tears in half as well. As she rips the paper, Mimsy looks up and sees her master and two others standing above her. When she sees that one of the people above her is Druella, Mimsy crawls towards Tom and points at her in an accusatory manner. Master, be careful of the mean girl. She used magic on Mimsy. She can't be trusted. She says as she starts holding onto Tom's leg and glaring at Druella. Wait. I didn't know you were Tom's elf. If I knew that, I wouldn't have attacked you. Druella says as she tries to repair her relationship with Mimsy. Mimsy ignored every word that came out of Druella's mouth and continued to treat her like an enemy. Tom and Briar found the entire situation hilarious and just sat back to enjoy the show. After listening to them talk back and forth for a minute, Tom decided it was time to step in. Mimsy, Druella really didn't know who you were. Please, forgive her this once. Tom says and Mimsy looked unsure. Mimsy will forgive the mean girl, but she doesn't forget. Mimsy says as she eyes Druella for a moment. Good, we should go and deal with your parents now. Briar, you stay here and make sure the elves don't do anything crazy. Keep them quiet and working as usual. Tom says as he can't have elves ruining his plans. Yes, my lord. Briar agrees with a bit of reluctance. Mimsy, you stay with him and watch the elves carefully. If they try to contact anyone outside the manor, stop them immediately and inform Briar. Tom says, and Mimsy nods her head and disappears to watch the elves in secret. Druella, you're with me. Let's go and speak to your parents. Tom opens a portal to the mirror dimension and they are met with the down forms of Lord and Lady Rosier. He didn't hesitate to open the portal as the Lord who would be notified is stunned in a separate dimension at the moment. The portal closes behind them, locking the mirror dimension shut for all those without a sling ring. Let's start with your mother. Tom says as he draws his wand and calls out a spell. Enervate. As Lady Rosier starts moving again, she sees the wondrous mirror dimension along with her husband, who is still stunned on the floor, as well as her daughter and her muggle-born friend. What's going on? Where am I? She says as she stands from her down position. You're in the mirror dimension, but that isn't important right now. Allow me to introduce myself as we haven't had the pleasure. Whenever we've met, you and your husband dragged Drew off without a word after all. Tom's replies as he takes his Slytherin air ring from his pocket and places it on his finger. My name is Thomas Marvolo Riddle, but everyone calls me Tom. I'm the half-blood heir of Salazar Slytherin. What? She yells and looks between her daughter and the ring on Tom's finger. Yes, hard to believe, I know. This should make it a bit easier though. Tom says as he swears on his magic that he is who he says he is. Lady Rosier simply stands there speechless, so Tom continues talking. Swear your loyalty to me as your lord or I'll have to put you through some pain. Usually, I would save the Cruciatus curse for last resorts and people that piss me off. Well, you were going to give my friend a truth potion that could very well hinder her growth, so you did piss me off quite a bit. Forget what I said before. You and your husband are the exact people that I would use that curse on. What's it going to be? Swear your loyalty or pain. I would give you more time, but I have to prepare for the arrival of Lord Prince tomorrow. While waiting for Druella's mother's answer, Tom points his wand at her menacingly. Francesca Rosier didn't know what to do. She would usually let her husband make the decisions and froze without making a choice. It seems that you need a bit of motivation. Crucio. Tom calls and red lightning dances off of his wand and strikes Druella's mother. Eh. She screams at the top of her lungs and drops to the floor in convulsions. Chapter 52, C-52. Preparing for guests. After some proper motivation, Druella's mother swore her loyalty to Tom the same way the Slytherin students did. After Tom stopped using the Cruciatus curse on her, Francesca took a while to get her breathing under control. Her mind was reeling from the unimaginable pain Tom put her through. She could feel aches all over her body as if she just ran a marathon without any training. Throughout the whole thing, Druella watched on with slight reluctance. She may have started growing apart from her parents since joining Hogwarts, but this was still her mother that Tom was torturing. She swallowed her reluctance and looked forward with determination. I may not like it, but it has to be done. After she swears the same oath like the rest of us, the pain will end and I can go back to being mad at her. Druella thought. Once the oath of loyalty was sworn, Tom had Lady Rosier stand beside her daughter and moved on to his friend's father. Enervate. Tom calls and Lord Rosier awoke from his frozen state. Huh. He said as he stood from his place on the floor of the mirror dimension. Hello, we've met already, but I'll introduce myself anyway. I'm Tom. Tom goes on to give him a similar speech as his wife. As Tom was talking, Lord Rosier waved his hand and called the disarming charm without a wand. Expelliarmus. Royce Rosier yelled and took Tom by surprise. A/N, I can't remember if I gave Drew's father a name or not. If I did, let me know and I'll change it. Tom dodged to the side, but the spell grazed his shoulder. His bone-white wand flew from his hand and into the direction of Druella's father. Royce sprinted forwards to catch the wand and leaped into the air to snatch it. Flipendo. Francesca called as she pointed her wand at her husband. Just as Lord Rosier was about to grab the wand out of the air, his wife's spell struck him and he went flying back. I'm glad I gave her wand back to her. Tom thought as he swears to himself that he will do his best to not be surprised by wandless magic like that again. As Tom walks up to his wand and picks it up, Lord Rosier sat on the ground staring at his wife in shock. They may have an arranged marriage, as most nobles do, but he and his wife are fairly close. The fact that she just turned on him was truly a surprise. I'm sorry, my love, but I swore an oath of loyalty on my life, Francesca said as she keeps her wand trained on her husband. What? Royce exclaimed. Can you at least wait until I'm finished talking before you attack again? I don't like repeating myself, Tom says as he starts explaining the situation again, but this time he keeps his wand trained on Lord Rosier. After hearing Tom's full speech, Royce vehemently refused to swear any oaths of loyalty. This caused Tom to start the torture again, but Lord Rosier had a stronger will than his wife. Even after a full 5 minutes of the Cruciatus curse, the men didn't give in at all. Tom stopped torturing him, as he didn't want to cause too much damage. He decided to just leave him in the mirror dimension for now. It would take time to break someone of his fortitude. While Lord Rosier heaved in pain on the floor, Tom opened a portal back into the Rosier Manor. Let's go. Any more torture and it may cause some lasting damage. He can sit in here and starve until he decides to swear the oath, Tom said, and the mother-daughter duo followed him out. They were happy that Tom didn't want to cause any lasting damage to their family member. Druella wasn't too shaken up by it, but he's still her father. Francesca, on the other hand, was not happy seeing her husband in such a state. She was truly relieved when her lord stopped the curse and decided to leave. Starvation is better than being tortured by that god-awful curse after all. When they returned to the manor, Tom put Francesca in charge of the elves to placate them. Who knows what they would have done without their master or mistress to keep them in check. Tom doesn't need elves getting in the way of his plans. According to Francesca, Lord Prince will arrive tomorrow around noon with his wife, as she and Lady Prince are close friends. Tom needs to capture them as he did the Rosier couple and get them on his side as well. He isn't strong enough to face the whole of the Slytherin alumni, so he needs to control the information they are given. Once he's strong enough, the Rosier and Prince families can help him move against the rest of the alumni. Firstly, Tom had Francesca take him to the ward stone for the manor. He needs to gain control of it, so he can use the wards against Lord and Lady Prince. With the wards under his control, Tom wouldn't need to take the couple by surprise or use any underhanded tricks. As long as the wards are strong enough, he should be able to beat them easily. Right this way, my lord, Lady Rosier says, and takes him to the basement of the manor. In the basement, she takes him to a wall and taps it a few times in specific places with her wand. The wall opens up in a similar way to the entrance to Diagon Alley. Behind the wall is a hidden room with a big stone pillar. The pillar itself has different symbols and arrays throughout that glow in a bright blue color. Give me control of the wards, Tom says, and she hurries up to the pillar with him following closely behind her. Place your hand here, my lord, she says, and points to a certain cluster of runes. Tom does as she says. As he does so, Francesca places her hand on another portion of the pillar and starts pumping her magic inside. The pillar glows slightly brighter as Lady Rosier says a few words and the light dies down. You're now in control of the wards. You have the same privileges over the manor as my husband and I, she says, and Tom starts testing out his power over the wards. He first tried to use the wards to teleport himself and Lady Rosier to the living room. Suddenly, they both disappear from the basement and appear where he wanted to go. Good, now let's run a few more tests, Tom says as he has Francesca call for one of her elves. With a pop, the elf appears and Tom orders it to walk out the front door. As the elf does so, it's stopped by a barrier as if it's walking into a brick wall. After testing out a few more things, Tom can see many ways that he could use the wards to beat tomorrow's visitors. He spends the rest of the day testing out the wards and preparing for his guests' arrival. Tom didn't bother to check in on Lord Rosier, as the men need some time in order to break the tough exterior of his. Once Tom was sure that he was ready for tomorrow's guests, he took a guest room to sleep in, performed his usual nightly magic practice, and went straight to bed. He has a busy day tomorrow after all. Chapter 53, C-53 Arrival of Guests. The next morning, Tom woke up bright and early as usual. He didn't bother doing any of his exercises as he doesn't want to tire himself out before the princes arrive. After eating breakfast prepared by the house elves, Tom and Druella returned to the mirror dimension. Tom made sure to open the portal a good ways away from where they left. They also had their wands at the ready as they walked through. Who knows if Lord Rosier would try and ambush them as they entered. When they arrived, they could see Druella's father sitting on the floor with an annoyed look on his face. He was still extremely sore from yesterday's torture and didn't sleep at all last night. He tried every bit of wandless magic that he knew in hopes of escaping. No matter what he tried, Royce couldn't budge himself from this awful place. Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Lord Rosier has spent the entire night trying to find a way out. The best way he came up with was to use apparition, so he tried it over and over. With every failed attempt he would try again and again. This continued throughout the night. He even tried to put all of his magic reserves into one overpowered version of apparition. That didn't work either, and now he's out of magic and extremely tired. "Are you willing to serve me or what?" Tom says, and he and Druella walk into the mirror dimension. "No." He answers and doesn't even bother to stand. "I am the heir to Slytherin, you know. Even if I am a half-blood, I've already taken control of the entire Slytherin house. I could just kill you and have Briar take over if I wanted," Tom says as he keeps his wand at the ready. "He won't be caught off guard again, that's for sure. It doesn't matter. When Lord Prince and his wife arrive, they will hopefully kill you," he says with a taunting smile. "Even if they do kill me, which they won't as I have control of the manor's wards, you would be stuck here to starve for the rest of your very short life," Tom says as he looks at the men before him. "Are you sure you want that to happen? Better I die here than ruin my family's name by serving a filthy half-blood," he says as he spits in Tom's direction. "You do know that when you die Briar will take over, right? Are you going loopy from your night in solitude? It's only been a single night," Tom says as he looks at the spit that landed in his shoe. After Tom said that, Lord Rosier refused to speak another word. Tom decided to just check on him once a day until he starved to death. If he doesn't accept Tom as his lord, nothing can be done about it. Tom would feel slightly bad for his friend, but he plans to give the men as many chances as he can. If he can't see where the train is heading, then Tom can do nothing to sway his decision. With a shrug, Tom leaves the mirror dimension along with Druella. He will check on Royce again tomorrow. When the time finally came for the princes to arrive, Tom made sure everything was in place. The princes were late and didn't arrive until around 1 p.m. They called through the flue and asked for passage into the manor. Tom had Francesca, Druella, and Briar waiting by the flue for the past hour. Tom was in the next room with Mimsy waiting patiently like everyone else. Everyone including Tom was starting to get annoyed with the prince couple's lateness. When they finally called through the flue, Francesca welcomed them with open arms. Thankfully, the princes didn't bring any other people with them. Just the Lord and Lady arrived as expected. The second they walked through the green flames of the fireplace, the family of three made pleasant conversation with the targets. Except for Druella, who is playing the part of the rebellious daughter. As soon as the flue closed behind the prince couple, Tom started activating the wards and setting some restrictions. The house was now in lockdown. No one was allowed in or out without Tom or Francesca's permission. The flue would not open. If someone were to try and walk outside, they would meet an invisible wall. Apparition was blocked as well, so no teleporting was allowed. Tom made sure there was no way out for the princes. "Hey, Francis. Where's your husband? Is he napping during the day again?" Lady Elena Prince says as she gives Francesca a quick hug. "Yes, he wanted to get a quick one in before you arrived. You were late as usual, so I decided to let him sleep a bit longer. He's washing up right now and should be down shortly." Francesca plays off her husband's absence beautifully. "I apologize for our tardiness, but potions are a fickle craft and this one needs a bit more care than the rest," Lord Chester Prince says as he motioned toward a vial in his hand. "May I see it? It's not every day that I get to see a vial of Verita serum," Lady Rosier asked, and he handed it over easily. As the prince and Rosier families were performing their greetings in the living room, Tom opened a portal to the mirror dimension on the floor in front of him. He made sure that the portal didn't lead anywhere near Lord Rosier. With the portal on the floor, Tom took out his wand and aimed it slightly above it. He then willed the wards to teleport Lord Prince a few feet over the portal. The second Lord Prince appeared over the portal. Tom called out the disarming spell. "Expelliarmus," he said, and the spell hit Lord Chester Prince in midair. His wand goes flying into Tom's hand and poor Chester goes falling into the portal below. Once he fully enters the portal, Tom closes it behind him to prevent escape. Hopefully, he doesn't have a spare wand, but the disarming spell should have gotten it if he had one. Tom thought as he turned to enter the living room. Suddenly, while the princes were being offered a seat, Chester Prince disappeared. His wife gasped in shock and on instinct pulled out her wand. As she pulled it out, the Rosier family did the same. She pointed her wand at her friend, Francesca, while all three Rosiers pointed theirs at her. Place your wand on the ground. You're outnumbered 3-1. Let's not do anything you'll regret. Druella says as she tries to calm the situation. Seeing her situation, Lady Prince tries to apparate away, but the wards block her from leaving. Why are you doing this? Lady Elena says as she stares at her longtime friend in complete and utter betrayal. Don't blame her. She's just following orders. Tom says as he walks into the room and takes a seat on the sofa. Orders? Whose orders? Elena asks in confusion. Mine, of course. Chapter 54, C54 Breaking Point. Tom places Lady Rosier in charge of getting her to swear the oath. They are friends, so Tom would give her a chance before resorting to torturous methods. The two women whispered to each other a few times and Elena Prince agreed to swear the oath fairly quickly. Whatever Lady Rosier said to her must have scared her into action. Probably something about the unimaginable pain she went through. After she swore her oath, Tom opened a portal to where he sent Lord Chester Prince in the mirror dimension. When they arrived, the man was in the middle of constantly trying to use apparition to escape. By the time he noticed their arrival, the portal already closed behind them, cutting off his only way of escape. He didn't even get a chance to try and make a run for it. Tom then went on to explain everything to Lord Prince as he did to the man's wife. He also explained how his wife already swore her oath. He was definitely reluctant but nonetheless agreed to swear his oath as well. The threat of the Cruciatus curse seemed to scare the wits out of him. This guy must have either witnessed the Cruciatus curse being used on someone else or he was victim to it. He agreed far too easily after hearing I would use it on him. Why can't Lord Rosier be this compliant? Tom thought as they left the mirror dimension after Lord Prince swore his oath of loyalty. Tom already visited Lord Rosier today, so he's going to let him stew until tomorrow. Now that Tom has the Rosier and Prince families under control, he needs them to call a meeting with the Slytherin alumni and feed them some bogus information. This way he would have more time to prepare for his eventual takeover. He has the Slytherin students under control, so next is the Slytherin alumni. Though he would need time to grow stronger and prepare for the moment he's ready to strike. What could ruin his plan is the non-compliance of Lord Rosier. Him coming to this meeting would help a lot, but the man is too stubborn for his own good. Tom would have to start getting a bit more serious with the men tomorrow. The princes were sent home and told to come again tomorrow after breakfast. He would have them stay in a guest room, but that could cause some suspicion if anyone were to find out. The next day, Tom awoke in the guest room of Rosier Manor. He didn't plan on spending much more time here. He still had half the summer left to study at Camartage after all. After freshening up a bit, he went straight to the mirror dimension. Tom didn't bring anyone with him this time as this visit may be a bit messier than the others. As he strolls on in, Tom could see Lord Rosier sleeping on the floor. Tom didn't trust him after the first time he was taken by surprise, so he didn't approach. Flipendo. Tom pulled out his wand and called out a spell. It hits Lord Rosier and he gets pushed back and skids along the ground like a skipping rock. Ah! He yelled as he banged into the floor a few times. I'm really sorry about this, but I need you to start complying. Things are about to get very painful if you don't agree to swear that oath of loyalty. Tom says and Lord Rosier answers with a wandless spell. Conf Ringo. Royce Rosier calls, but the blasting curse was easily countered. Protego. Tom blocks the spell with ease and looks at the men before him with pity in his eyes. It seems we'll have to go with the painful route. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this. Druella is my friend and I would rather not be responsible for crippling her father with the Cruciatus curse. I guess some things just have to be done. Crucio. The red lightning flies from Tom's wand and the torture begins. Druella's father screamed in agony on the floor as the power of the killing curse courses through every part of his body. The pain was unimaginable and Tom didn't let up for a whole minute. Once he would stop, Tom would ask the men to swear his oath. Every time he asked, Lord Rosier would deny and Tom would start the torture all over again. After half an hour of repeated torture, Lord Rosier finally swore the oath. I guess that everyone has a breaking point. Tom thought as Druella's father passed out after swearing his oath. Tom then opened a portal to the Rosier Manor and levitated Lord Royce through. When they arrived in the living room of Rosier Manor, Tom placed him on the sofa and called for Francesca. Francesca. He calls and she comes walking in a moment later. Yes, my lord. She says but stops as she sees her husband in a sorry state on the sofa. She rushes to his side and starts throwing out diagnostic charms. With every spell cast, she grows more pale by the second. Her husband has some very bad nerve damage. If they didn't have magical remedies for these types of things, Lord Royce would end up paralyzed from this much damage. It took a bit to break him, but in the end, he swore the same oath as you. I sincerely apologize for the state he's currently in. Tom says genuinely, as he really didn't want to do this to his friend's father. You're a trained medi-witch, so nurse him back to tip-top shape, would you? He's needed for the meeting with the Slytherin alumni. If you need any potions, contact the princes before they arrive. I'm sure they can provide anything you may need. Yes, my lord. I'll get to work immediately. She says as she starts casting spell after spell on her husband. While she gets to work, Tom walks out of the room and is met with Druella, who was snooping at the door. Tom feels a bit awkward as he just got done torturing her father not a moment earlier and she knew it. I forgive you. Druella says as she could tell how Tom was feeling. The man is a prat that was going to dose me with a truth potion. He deserved what he got and it's not like he'll be permanently crippled. Mom will have him up and running in no time. Especially with the prince's potions backing her healing. I am sorry though. Tom says wholeheartedly. I know. Around noon, the princes arrived with a few potions to help Lord Rosier with his recovery. Francesca said that Royce would be healed enough to attend the meeting in 3 days. Tom had them call the meeting 5 days later just to be sure. The Prince family was placed in charge of informing everyone of the meeting while Francesca focused herself on healing her husband. Chapter 55, see 55 Alumni. When the meeting of the Slytherin alumni finally arrived, everything was looking good. Lord Royce was up and about, looking better and better with each day. He couldn't do any heavy lifting or running, but he was on his way to recovery. Royce was in good enough shape to attend the meeting as well. The meeting itself was going to take place in Black Manor. They are the most prominent dark noble family and insisted on hosting. Seeing as the meeting isn't being held in either Rosier or Prince Manor, Tom would have to stay behind and hope for the best. He's already told his followers what to say. Obviously, he told his followers not to reveal anything about himself or the cause for the change in Slytherin House. The excuse he's using is a fairly simple one. It will hopefully work well and keep the parents quiet for a while. Black Manor. As everyone arrived and crowded into the ballroom of Black Manor, the Slytherin alumni were eager to find out what was going on. Many of them have children in Slytherin and were worried about their safety. The second everyone arrived, they didn't mince words and started questioning the Rosier and Prince couples. The room filled with chatter as everyone started asking different questions. Silence. Lord Black called as he enhanced his voice with magic. Every single person shut their mouth as they didn't want to cause trouble with a powerhouse like the Black family. Let them speak and we can ask questions after. He says and motions for those with the information to start explaining. The Rosiers then went on to explain what happened to cause such a change in Hogwarts. They explained how they dosed their daughter along with Lord and Lady Prince as witnesses and heard all about it. Apparently, the Slytherin Council found a hidden room in the castle that held the portrait of Salazar Slytherin. They then went on to explain how Slytherin was upset at how far his house had fallen and ordered the children to fix it. They recruited every Slytherin above first year and got to work as the portrait asked. They all swore oaths to the great Salazar Slytherin and got to work fixing the house's reputation. Not only were they doing the work of Slytherin himself, but they were also being trained by his portrait as well. They would all go to the hidden room early in the morning and were personally taught by Salazar in exchange for their work. Many of the alumni were amazed by the fake story told by the Rosier family. They wouldn't believe it if it wasn't backed by the Prince family as well. Many wished they had found the room while they attended Hogwarts. What they wouldn't do to have the honor of meeting Salazar Slytherin. Some were skeptical and needed further proof, but Tom knew this would happen. He has two backup plans for this. The first one should work nicely while the second is only for emergencies. I know some of you may find it hard to believe, so we brought the memory from the questioning my daughter went through. Lord Royce says as he takes out a vial with his memory inside. If Lord Black would provide a pensieve, you all could see it for yourselves. A pensieve was fetched by a house elf and everyone took turns watching the memory. The memory itself is a play acted out in order to fool the Slytherin alumni. It took a few takes to get it right, but Druella is a mighty fine actress. She acted out the part of a rebellious daughter under the effects of Verita serum beautifully. After seeing the memory, no one questioned it anymore. In fact, they are beyond ecstatic. A real portrait of Salazar Slytherin was found and many of their children have met the man. It may not be the real Slytherin, but the portrait holds all of his memories and knowledge. Their children have the chance to be taught by one of the founders, and boy were they jealous. Once they knew the information was credible, they needed to come to a decision on what to do about it. Tom's followers pushed for them to do nothing at all. They said that the children were doing very well in keeping everything a secret. If they were to get involved, the faculty may find out and remove the portrait from the room. That would be horrible, as their children would lose the chance to study under one of the founders. Not to mention it's every pureblood's idol, Salazar Slytherin. After some convincing, everyone agreed to stay quiet about it and not to reveal anything. They wouldn't even reveal what they know to their children. They would let the Slytherin students continue serving Salazar and reaping the benefits of his tutoring. Although, many of them were thinking of ways to sneak into the school and find the portrait. If only they could turn back time and return to Hogwarts. Rosier Manor. When the Rosier and Prince couples returned, Tom could tell that everything went well. They went on to explain the meeting and Tom seemed happy with the results. This should buy me enough time until I can deal with the alumni. Tom thought with a small smile on his face. Once he knew that the alumni were off his trail, he breathed a sigh of relief. He could now return to Camartage to continue his training. Tom didn't leave until the next day, as it was late when the meeting ended. He said goodbye to Druella and his followers and returned to Camartage. When he returned to his bedroom, he left to inform his teacher of his return. She seemed slightly annoyed that he didn't need any more of her help. She must have wanted to learn more of Tom's secrets in exchange for her assistance. After that, Tom went back to his normal training schedule. He continued with his practice in forming a sword with the Eldritch energy and worked on constructing the mark for his followers. By the time summer ended, he could form the Eldritch energy into what almost looked like a broadsword. Although, he couldn't hold it for long and it was far from perfect. He could hold it together for about 5 minutes, but it looked a bit distorted. Tom would need more practice before this skill would be up to the Ancient One's standards. Before returning to Hogwarts, Tom sent some elves to Camp Lehigh in New Jersey to look out for Steve Rogers. If his memory serves him well, which it should as he has perfect recall, Steve should be joining the army soon. In the movie, he goes to Camp Lehigh for his training. Tom wants to have a front row seat for when Captain America is born. Dr. Abraham Erskine should have fled Germany by now. I just hope everything doesn't happen while I'm at school. Although, I could just use the portals to leave. No one seems to have noticed it by now. That's probably thanks to Lady Hogwarts letting me through the wards. Tom thought as he opened a portal to an abandoned area by King's Cross Station, Chapter 56, C-56 Captain America, 1. When Tom returned to school, everything was the same as last year. The other houses were starting to see that Slytherin wasn't joking about their apologies. They stopped bullying and badmouthing the other houses. Except for some of the Gryffindor snake haters who still think that they're up to something. When everyone returned to the Slytherin common room after the welcoming feast, the council called a meeting and last year's first-year students were brought into the fold. None of them challenged Tom like last year. They were given the opportunity, but how could they beat a fourth year? That combined with the fact that everyone else had already sworn themselves brought them to the right decision. Tom didn't threaten them with the Cruciatus as they're just 12-year-old kids after all. Tom made sure to open a portal every night for Mimsy to come and give him a report about the elves in Camp Lehigh. Steve hasn't arrived for his basic training yet, but Tom thinks that it will happen soon. While waiting for the captain to arrive at Camp Lehigh, Tom has been working on the mark for his followers and continued his meditation to find his spirit animal. A/N, By the way, the beginning of the Captain America movie takes place in 1943, but I'm moving it up a bit. A bit before Christmas break, the elves informed Tom of Steve's arrival. He's pretty hard to miss as he's a foot away from being a midget. Tom told the elves to follow Steve closely and keep him updated on what happens. When Tom arrived at Camartage during the break, he kept working on the Eldritch Sword. He was fairly close to mastering it and would soon move on to a different weapon. A week into his time at Camartage, Tom received news that Steve jumped onto a fake grenade during training. This should be when they decide that he's the right guy for the serum. Erskine wanted to make sure that he wouldn't make another whack job like the last time. The creation of the Red Skull must have scarred him deeply, but at least he's making sure to choose the right person now. Abraham Erskine began developing the super soldier serum in 1930 while still in Germany. In 1931, Wilfred Mallock brought one of the key ingredients of the formula to Hydra with the assistance of Viola. 10 years later, in 1940, the super soldier serum was tested on Johann Schmidt, turning him into Red Skull in the process. However, the formula wasn't ready for use at the time, and the serum's effects affected Schmidt's personality drastically. Although, Erskine would go on to say that his serum didn't fail. It did exactly what he designed it to do. It enhances what is already within. It was Schmidt that was already like that. His serum just enhanced that madness to another level. Schmidt's transformation didn't go as planned because his super soldier serum lacked radioactive exposure, causing the burning away of the skin and tissue surrounding his skull as well as leaving an unpleasant red scab creating the Red Skull. Seeing as the experiment should take place soon, Tom informed the Ancient One of his departure and left. She tried asking questions but Tom didn't spill anything as always. Who knows what she would do if he said he was going to see the creation of Captain America and take a few things along the way. Tom opened a portal in an abandoned alley in New Jersey and found a nice hotel to stay in. After he secured a place of residence, he called his trusty house elf. Mimsy. He calls. Pop. Yes, master. Mimsy says as she appears before him. What's happening at the camp? He asks. After the grenade thingy, all the muggles in charge agreed that Stevie is the right guy for the expedition. Mimsy says with a happy smile. It's experiment, but good work. Have they decided on a date for it to take place? Tom asks curiously. Tomorrow, but no one is saying where it will happen. Mimsy says as if she failed her master. That's fine. Just follow Steve wherever he goes and that's it. Tom says as he gives her a head pat. Have you seen any American elves or wizards hanging around the area? No, sir. Mimsy says with a shake of her head and a happy smile. Good, keep a few elves on Steve and then tomorrow we'll get to see something really interesting. Hydra facility. Is there something in particular you need? The Red Skull says as an artist paints his portrait. Is it true that you found him? Dr. Arnim Zola says as he enters the room. See for yourself. He motions toward the table filled with several surveillance photos of Dr. Erskine. You disapprove? I just don't see why you need concern yourself with this. I can't imagine he will succeed. Zola says looking nervously at Schmidt's red face. Again, that is. His serum is the Allies' best defense against the power we now hold. If we take it away from them, then our victory is assured. Besides, Grindelwald has been asking about him and I can't allow that annoying man to get his hands on the serum. Red Skull says with distaste as he speaks of Grindelwald. Shall I give the order then? Zola asks. It has already been given. Antique Shop, Brooklyn. Tom had the elves follow Steve all day today and he just arrived at this shop. He and Peggy Carter just exited a car and were about to walk in. I can see why the captain is so smitten with her. Tom thought the second he saw Peggy. Tom cast a disillusionment charm on himself and followed closely behind the two. They walked up to the teller and the secret phrases are given. Wonderful weather this morning, isn't it? The shop owner says. Yes, but I always carry an umbrella. Peggy replies and they're allowed entrance to the back. Peggy leads Steve, along with Tom following close behind, into the hidden lab to Dr. Erskine and his team. It's a big circular room filled with machinery and a pod in the middle. Good morning. Erskine says as he shakes Steve's hand. A flash goes off and somebody takes a picture of them. Please, not now. he says, and the photographer walks away reluctantly. Are you ready? Erskine asks as he sees Steve staring at the pod in the center of the room. Yeah, I think so. Steve replies. Good, take off your shirt, your tie, and your hat. As everyone is preparing, Tom is staring straight into Erskine's eyes. He activated his legilimency and started pouring through his memories as quickly and thoroughly as possible. Thankfully, Erskine is a genius with a fairly well-organized mind. That didn't mean that Tom could slack off. He needed to find everything this man knew about the serum before his timely death. Chapter 57, see 57 Captain America, 2. As Tom continued to sort through Erskine's memories, he had to play a game of staying in front of him whilst not getting in anyone's way. Everyone was moving around the room checking machines and making sure that everything was working perfectly. One small mistake could ruin everything and cost Steve his life. When everything was ready, Steve climbed onto the pod at the center of the room. Comfortable? Erskine asks as he straps Steve onto the pod. It's a little big. You saved me any of that schnapps from yesterday. Starve replies as he lay in the pod that looks 3 times too big for him. Sorry, not as much as I should have. Next time. Mr. Stark, how are your levels? He apologizes and turns to Howard Stark. When Tom heard Erskine call for Stark, he wanted to get a look at the father of Tony Stark. Tom owned a good portion of his company, so maybe he should introduce himself sooner or later. Though Howard would be Tom's next victim. He needs to know how the Vita rays work so he doesn't end up like the Red Skull. Observation Room. In the observation room away from all of the delicate machinery, stood a bunch of officials that were there to oversee the experiment. The most notable of these people are Colonel Chester Phillips, who is the officer in command of Project Rebirth. Senator Brandt, who is the one that would use Captain America to raise funds for the war instead of allowing him to fight in it. Peggy Carter, who is the one that rescued Erskine from the Red Skull in Germany. These are the biggest names in the Strategic Scientific Reserve, or SSR for short. Besides Erskine and Stark, who are the brains of the operation. Then there was the hidden Hydra agent, Fred Clemson, also known as Heinz Kruger. He is Hydra's top assassin and is only here for 2 things. Killing Erskine and stealing any extra super soldier serum laying around. Everyone in the room goes around greeting one another with handshakes. A few of the men were ogling Peggy, but only one look from her and they thought twice and turned away. Jesus, somebody get that kid a sandwich. Senator Brandt says as he sees Steve climb into the pod. Levels at 100%, Stark yells and everyone gets ready for the big moment. Good. Erskine says as he turns on a microphone. Do you hear me? Is this thing on? He says to the officials in the observation room. Ladies and gentlemen, today we take not another step towards annihilation, but the first step on the path to peace. We begin with a series of micro-injections into the subject's major muscle groups. The serum infusion will cause immediate cellular change. And then to stimulate growth, the subject will be saturated with Vita rays. He says as he pulls a switch and 3 vials of blue serum inject straight into Steve. The pod closes, encapsulating Steve completely, and stands straight up. Steven, can you hear me? Erskine knocks on the metal capsule. It's probably too late to go to the bathroom, right? Steve's muffled voice was heard and is completely ignored by Erskine. Stark, we will proceed. He says and moves away to a safe distance. At this point, Tom had already stolen all of the information he needed from Erskine's mind. He didn't need to actually take anything from the man's mind. Just browsing the information was enough for him to remember it. Right now all of the information looks like gibberish, so Tom will have to start studying Muggle science in order to understand any of it. Tom could move on to Stark, but it's not like he's going to die anytime soon. There's still some time before the Winter Soldier comes to do his dirty work. Seeing that Tom didn't need anything else, he found a good place to stand and watch the show. On Erskine's command, Stark started ramping up the Vita rays. With every turn of the wheel, he would call out the percentage of Vita rays in the pod. 10%. 30%. 60%, Stark says as a blinding light shines from the window of the pod. Aergerg. Steve screamed at the top of his lungs. Shut it down. Peggy was the first to call for the experiment to stop. Erskine panicked and calls for Stark to shut down the reactor. As Stark is about to shut it all down, Steve yells from the pod. Don't. I can do this. Listening to what Steve said, Howard starts ramping the Vita rays all the way up to 100%. Not a single scream came from the chamber as the light from the window fills the room. After about 30 seconds at 100%, all the machinery started going haywire and short-circuited. Sparks flew off of every machine in the room as they all shut down. The light in the pod dies down and Erskine rushes to open it up. As the pod opens, everyone is met with the beefcake that is Captain America. On this day, America's *SS was born. While everyone was celebrating, Tom decided to leave. He didn't want to interrupt and change anything. As much as he found Erskine's death sad, the men had to die. Who knows what would happen if more people with the powers of Captain America came into this world? It's best to let him die and move on. When Tom left the building, he moved into a side alley and called for his trusty head elf. Mimsy. Tom called. Yes, sir. She appeared and answered his call. Have an elf watching over what happens with Steve next. Make sure they don't get in the way though. If for some reason Erskine survives, notify me immediately. Also, a man is about to steal a blue vial from in there. He should be thwarted and the vial he steals destroyed. Make sure it's destroyed for me, all right. Tom orders and Mimsy nods her head before popping away. Tom then opens a portal to his hotel room and drops onto his bed. He was about to go into his mind when suddenly he hears someone crunching on potato chips. I was very surprised to see you in that antique shop, Tom. The Ancient One in all of her baldness says as she munches on her potato chips. Hee hee, teacher. What are you doing here? Tom asks nervously. Oh, nothing. Just came to see the creation of one of Earth's future heroes. What I didn't think I would find is my student skulking around in the shadows. She says with a disapproving look. I did not skulk, thank you. Also, you were there as well. He says pointing a finger at his teacher. Yes, but I wasn't using the mind arts on a poor destined to die scientist, and you were definitely skulking. Chapter 58, C-58 Testing in the Forbidden Forest. Yes, but I wasn't using the mind arts on a poor destined to die scientist, and you were definitely skulking. The Ancient One said as she stares at Tom like a disappointed parent. Stop looking at me like that. It's not like I interrupted anything. The future will continue as you want it to. I just took a bit of information and watched the same show that you did. Tom defends himself. What do you plan on doing with the information you took? The Ancient One asks with a sigh. Usually I wouldn't tell you anything, but since you caught me I'll make an exception this time. I'm going to enhance my body with the super soldier serum. Tom says plainly. Though, that won't happen for a while as I don't understand any of the scientific jargon. I'll have to study Muggle science before enhancing my body. You're already building up quite a bit of strength through magic. You attend 2 schools for it almost non-stop. Why do you need to enhance your body? The Ancient One asks. Well, there's the real answer and the really real answer. Which would you prefer to hear? Tom replies. Both, but start with the lesser of the reals. She answers as she starts crunching on potato chips once again. The real answer, as I've told you before, is that I have some future knowledge. Especially of the threats that the Earth will face in the future. I would like to be fully prepared for when those threats come knocking. Tom says with a very serious expression. And the really real answer? She nods her head and asks. I just think it would be cool to have the same powers as Captain America. I wonder if they would come in handy in the bedroom as well. Tom says with a smile on his face. Why did I have to take in such a maddening student? The Ancient One shakes her head and stands from the couch. You love me and you know it. Tom answers as she opened a portal back to Camartage. The Ancient One replies with an annoyed grunt and leaves Tom alone in his hotel room. The only thing going through her mind is how her student must be going through puberty. With the Ancient One gone, Tom meditated and entered his mind. When he arrived, he went straight for the laptop with his memories and sorted all of the information he received from Erskine's mind. As he finished and exited his mind, Mimsy was there waiting with an eager expression. Master, we made sure everything happened as you said. Mimsy said with a happy smile. Good, were there any complications? Tom asked. The blue vial didn't get destroyed, so we had to break it ourselves. She replies with a proud smile. Good, no one saw you or anything, right? Tom asked, and Mimsy shook her head. Were there any other complications, or was that it? Nope, everything else went as Master said it would. She replied happily. Good job. I knew that I could count on you, Mimsy. The second those words exited Tom's mouth, the little elf couldn't take it anymore and started squealing in joy. She couldn't wait to tell all of the other elves how their master felt about their work. Mimsy, keep a team of elves watching Steve for the foreseeable future. I want weekly reports on what's going on in his life. If anything monumental happens, I want to be notified as soon as possible. Don't let the elves tire themselves out though. Put them on a rotation so some can rest while others survey, all right? Tom says, and Mimsy nods as she pops away to inform the other elves. Now that Tom has taken the knowledge of the super soldier serum, he can get back to his magical studies. He returns to Camartage and continues his eldritch weapon training. By the time the Christmas break ended, Tom had turned 15 years old. His birthday was celebrated by those close to him in Camartage as usual. Before leaving, Tom had mastered the construction of his eldritch great sword. The Ancient One told him to start trying to form some other weapons as well. With the mastery of forming the great sword, forming other weapons became a lot easier. It shouldn't take him long to be able to summon an arsenal of eldritch weapons. Soon enough I'll be able to start working on Project Gilgamesh. I'll be hurling weapons at people in no time. Tom thought as he boarded the train back to Hogwarts. One other thing that he finished during his time at Camartage is the mark for his followers. He managed to combine everything and make the perfect mark. The only thing to do now is to test it before placing it on his followers. It's a good thing that the Forbidden Forest is filled with test subjects. I'll just have to sneak out of the castle tonight and find some critters to run tests on. Tom thought as he and Druella entered Hogwarts. That night while everyone was asleep, Tom opened a portal leading outside the castle. He then made his way to the Forbidden Forest and started hunting for some animals on the outskirts. As he was searching, Tom found a few rabbits, deer, squirrels, and owls. He captured them using stunners and tested the mark on them. The results looked to be going well. They didn't seem to be going through any pain. The invisibility function was working perfectly as he was able to hide the marks and make them appear with relative ease. The telepathic communication function was working as well, but as the animals couldn't speak, all he received from them were feelings and emotions. Since he couldn't test the telepathy properly on these animals, Tom summoned a snake with a spell and used the mark on it. This wound up proving that the telepathy was working perfectly. He made sure to also test the distance, and no matter how far the snake went, he was always able to get a message through and receive one as well. The only thing left to test was the lie detector function, which was easily done with the snake he summoned. Tom simply told it to tell him 5 truths and 5 lies. Every time the snake lied to him, Tom would feel his senses tingle slightly. It felt like what he imagined Spider-Man's Spidey sense felt like, except for lies and not danger. Maybe I should find a way to give myself Spidey senses. It would certainly help in future battles. Tom thought as he finished his tests. As Tom was about to start heading out of the forest, he heard rustling in the bush to his left. He instantly drew his wand and turned to see what's near him. As the bush ruffles around, a black cloak comes floating over the bush as if gliding on air. The cloak moves like a living shroud over the bush and along the forest floor. What was even more horrifying was the direction it was gliding. It's moving straight for Tom, and with every second it draws closer and closer. Chapter 59, see 59 Lethifold and marking. The second Tom saw the black cloak gliding above the bush, he knew that it was a Lethifold. What had him confused was the fact that Lethifolds are only found in tropical climates. How could one of them get into the Forbidden Forest? These questions were pointless as every second that passes, the black cloak grows closer and closer. As the Lethifold was a couple of meters away, Tom aimed his wand at it and called the only spell he knew that could save him. Expecto Patronum. Tom calls and a bright blue light exits his wand. With the blue light came a fully corporeal Thestral Patronus. The Thestral's aura brought a calming and happy atmosphere to what once was a very dire situation. That happy aura rushed outward and pushed the Lethifold back. Just the light the Patronus gave off seemed to singe the cloak as it shrieked in pain. Seeing that its prey conjured the bane of its existence, the Lethifold made a run for it. Tom thought for a second about letting it go, but he can't leave such a dangerous creature on the outskirts of a children's boarding school. Not to mention that 1/4 of the school consists of his own followers. He can't just allow something like this to possibly harm his people. Making up his mind, Tom climbed onto the back of his Thestral Patronus and hung on tight. Follow that cloth. Tom calls and his Patronus starts galloping after the dark cloak. A chase ensues and the Lethifold leads Tom deeper and deeper into the forbidden forest. Tom doesn't mind and rides after the floating cloth. He could just open a portal and return to the castle at any time. The cloth led Tom up a hill and on the other side is a group of sleeping giants. The Lethifold hid behind the back of a towering giant and hoped to escape while Tom is preoccupied with these huge creatures. Sneaky little bastard has some brains, huh? Tom thought as he hoped he wouldn't have to fight a group of giants. The light from the Patronus woke the sleeping giants as they rub their tired eyes and spot where the light is coming from. Though they spotted Tom riding his glowing Thestral, the good and happy feelings from the Patronus seemed to somehow calm them. The giants simply look at Tom and his Thestral with smiles on their dumb faces. They don't attack nor do they even get up from their position on the ground. Tom smirks as he sees the giants smiling with blissful expressions. It's behind that one. Tom points to a giant. Circle around and ram your head into its back. Tom commands and hops off the Thestral. The Patronus does as Tom said and circled the giant. The giant was laying down in a blissful daze, so it stayed perfectly still. The Lethifold thought that it was safe and the giants would take care of its problem. It wasn't ready for when the Thestral Patronus rammed its head straight into the back of the giant. The head of the Thestral struck the Lethifold and the cloth started burning where the head made contact. The Lethifold started shrieking in pain and tried once again to run away. Before the black cloak could make a run for it, the Thestral Patronus started stomping its feet repeatedly onto the downed cloth. Just like before, every place the Thestrals have stomped started burning away. This repeated until the Lethifold was nothing but a small piece of cloth no bigger than a dish rag. The cloth lay there unmoving. No screams, no floating, no nothing. The Thestral Patronus stomped on the cloth one final time and the Lethifold disintegrated into nothing. Seeing its job was done, the Thestral went to return to Tom but was stopped by an angry-looking giant. Nice thing hurt Brig don't like nice thing anymore. It grunts and moves to attack the Patronus. Tom saw that the Lethifold was beaten and had no plans to fight giants. He opened a portal into his room in Hogwarts and walked in. Before closing the portal, Tom unsummoned the Patronus. He then closed the portal, leaving behind some very irate giants. Tom took a breath and inwardly celebrated his victory. Not many people can say that they hunted and killed a Lethifold. Although his Patronus did all the work, the Patronus is the only known defense against Lethifolds. Other spells wouldn't have had much of an effect on these sorts of creatures. After celebrating his victory, Tom went straight to bed. He has to be up for training as usual and it was almost midnight. The next morning, Tom and the whole of Slytherin, besides the first years, woke up bright and early for their training. Before training even started, Tom drew everyone's attention to himself. Attention, everyone. I have an announcement. Tom yelled and everyone shut their mouths and listened quietly. Lately I've been working on a way for us to communicate and tell who is and isn't a member of my followers. I'm happy to say that I've created the perfect answer to both of those problems. Druella, would you step forward please? Druella comes forward and stands beside Tom with a curious expression. What do I have to do? She asks. Hold out your right arm with your palm upwards please. Tom says and she does as he instructed. Tom places the tip of his wand on her wrist. With his other hand, he draws on the eldritch energy and runic symbols appear and surround her wrist as well. He then chants a few words and the tip of his wand lights up. Tom then pulls out some ink and pours it onto her wrist. As the light from Tom's wand dies down, the eldritch runes disappear into Druella's skin along with the ink. What's left behind is a small black tattoo of a snake eating its own tail on her wrist. This is the mark that all of you shall receive. It does two things. First, it can be hidden and revealed at will, like this. Tom touches the mark and channels magic into it and it disappears. And it can also do this. Hello, Drew. Wow, I heard you in my mind just now. Druella exclaims as she tries to reply. Hey, Tom. I heard you loud and clear. Good job figuring out how to reply, Drew. Tom says, and Druella looks happy with her new tattoo. Everyone form a line and show your wrists. After you've all received the mark, we'll begin training as usual. Everyone makes a line and eagerly awaits their mark. Tom didn't reveal the fact that the mark will notify him of their lies. It's better to keep that to himself. If they knew that getting the mark would take away their ability to lie to him, they definitely wouldn't be this eager to receive it. Of course, Tom turned off the lie function of Druella's mark. He didn't want to know every white lie she tells him. That may ruin their friendship, and Tom didn't want that to happen. Although, the function can be turned back on at any time. If something were to happen and he needs the truth from her, he can just turn it on when needed. Chapter 60, C60 Master. With the mark in place, Tom will have an easier time contacting his followers. He just needs to contact all of the followers that graduated last year and give them the mark as well. The rest of the school year was spent going through the motions. Tom made sure to spend the majority of his free time on becoming an animagus. Other than meditating to find his spirit animal, Tom has been dabbling in battle transfiguration. He's been working on things like changing the floor into spikes to turning anything into an animal or human to fight for him. Things like animals and human forms are a bit beyond him at the moment. Whenever he tries to make something as intricate as that, it would come out disfigured and revert to whatever it originally was. Tom allowed the Slytherins to win the House Cup this year. Although, he made sure that the gap between them and the other houses wasn't too big. With the training his followers are being put through, they could demolish the other house. Especially in the practical use of magic. Before returning to Camartage, Tom charged Druella with contacting the graduates from last year. She would schedule meetings so Tom could give the rest of his followers the mark. In order not to cause suspicion, Tom had them show up in batches. The location would alternate for every batch as to not give away the meeting places. When his 4th year of Hogwarts ended, Tom ended up staying in Slytherin Manor instead of going straight to Camartage as usual. It took 3 weeks to finish marking all of his graduated followers, and boy did it feel good. They may have sworn their loyalty to him, but now he feels as though there's an extra failsafe from betrayal. If they somehow found a way to circumvent their oaths, which is extremely doubtful to happen, Tom would have that extra parachute to keep him safe. Before opening the portal to return to Camartage, Mimsy gave Tom yet another report on the life of Captain America. The good captain still hasn't been allowed to join the war. Steve goes from state to state doing his shows as a war bond salesman. Although he hates every moment of it, he is helping his country pay for a very costly war. When Tom returned to Camartage, he went straight to the Ancient One. "You're late," she says as she pores through a very old-looking book. "Sorry, I had to take care of something before coming," Tom replies as he takes a seat on the sofa. "What are you looking for in that book?" "Nothing you need to stick your nose into," she says as she casually flips through the pages. "I hope you've kept up with your training. If you can't make at least 10 different eldritch weapons by now, I may have to rethink making you my personal student." Tom doesn't reply and starts drawing on the eldritch energy. He first forms his great sword, and that sword starts morphing into different weapons. An axe, staff, knife, flail, hammer, etc. Tom ended up creating 25 different weapons. The Ancient One looked up from her book and gave her student an approving nod. "Congratulations, Tom. You are now a master of the mystic arts," she says as she closes her book with a loud thud. A/N, I made my own standard for when you're considered a master. Nothing is really said about it in the movies. At least I don't remember anything like that in the movies. I also Googled some stuff and decided to just do it myself. The second Tom hears what she said, a proud smile forms on his face. Don't be too full of yourself though. That just means you've passed the smallest requirements to graduated from being a student. I've provided you a strong base to build up from. If you want to continue your studies into the mystic arts, you'll have to learn the rest on your own. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't come to me with questions. I'm still your teacher, and that won't change no matter how much you grow," the Ancient One says with a bit of emotion. "Thanks, teacher." Tom gave her a formal bow and flashed her a smile. I'll be sure to bug you with any questions from now on. Yeah, just don't interrupt my me time, alright? Also, come find me tomorrow. Every master gets a chance to find a compatible relic for themselves. We'll go from sanctum to sanctum to see if you have one. She says, and Tom's eyes light up like fireworks. Relics are items of power like Doctor Strange's Cloak of Levitation and the Ancient One's Eye of Agamotto. They have a slight sentience to them, so Tom can't just walk in and choose whatever catches his eye. The relics would have to pick who can wield them. He only hopes that at least one of the relics on display in the sanctums will choose him. It would be awesome to be chosen by more than one though. Can we not go now? Tom asks with his best puppy dog eyes. No, I'm busy with something at the moment. I should have it all wrapped up by tomorrow though. She wasn't affected and starts shooing Tom away as she dives back into the book from earlier. Oh, and seeing as you're a master now, you can dress however you like. Thank God I can finally stop wearing these robes. Tom thought and went to his room. Now I just have to graduate Hogwarts and I'll never have to wear robes again. Unless it's for some sort of formal reason. Then I'll just have to grin and bear it. Tom returned to his room in Camartage and happily changed into some normal Muggle clothes. No matter how much he wears them, robes will never be as comfortable as a nice pair of pants along with a shirt. After changing his clothes, Tom goes to the library and browses for what he should start studying first. As a master, he now has unfettered access to all parts of the library. Of course, there are sections that only the Ancient One has access to. The only way to get a book from these places is to ask and hope she agrees. As Tom is browsing the bookshelves, he sees a black book with no title. Something told him that this book would be interesting. It was getting late, so Tom just took the book and returned to his room. Usually, books weren't allowed to leave the library, but Tom is a master now, so he has more privileges than before. When Tom returned to his room, it was almost time for him to get some sleep. He wakes up far too early to stay up late for no reason. Before draining his magic, as he does every night, Tom opened the black book and looked to see what it's about. He couldn't stop the smile from his face when he saw what the book entailed. Shadow manipulation, huh? I think I'll stay up a bit later tonight. Tom thought as he gets absorbed into the black book.